clicking past, ain't feeling his him. Waiting for the moment, blow up like a piston. Haters gonna hate, but persistence gonna glisten. Hold tight, 20 turn to 100 someday. Laugh in their face, shouting, who wants some pay?
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Oh, what up, Twitch? What up, Larry? What up, Trans Women, CEO of Trans Women? What up, Pharaoh? What up, Asa? What up, Old Lobster? What up, Larry? What up, Cosmic? What up, Bots? What up, Lurkers? What up, Michael? What up, Tiny People in my chatterino? What up, people who uptalk? What up, Ribbons? It's your boy. Some people just don't understand. People just don't understand. Right? I mean, shooters on the block, right? So, oh, well, go ahead. I mean, learn a valuable lesson about life. Anyways, it's another day of I just added more to the AI video pile, and we're gonna push play and see how much we can get through. Yeah. Your reminder, it's Friday, panel with Justin and Echoplex Dave and Redolent Thought, 5:30. I will be starting my normal start time at 5 o'clock, and then the panel will start at 5:30. Should be fun. The last one was fun, and now we're adding the chaos that is Redolent Thought. So, I expect it to be fun again. And still have not gotten a confirmation, but still expecting to find out and start the new job on Sunday. So expect change in schedule starting next week. Yeah, and in the meantime, for the rest of this week, we're just going to do what we normally do and go from there. And we shall see what happens. I just realized that this creator's name is Kamikaze Short Bus. But cool. So yeah, we're gonna hit play, and we're gonna do all the AI news that's fit to view. There's a lot of AI skeptics. Then we have a oasis of Nate, and then it's kind of back and forth. So, I guess without further ado, worried about AI? Here's the real trick.
I know exactly what you're thinking right now. Is it a waste of time and energy to develop skills when the rapid advancement of AI is already rivaling the skills that it's taken me a lifetime to develop? And the answer? I don't know, but I can tell you the secret to a good magic trick. Trust me, it's almost as good. You ever see the core behind the ear trick? You really only see this one impress kids, because once you've seen it the first time, it kind of stops being impressive. The next time a kid has the trick done for them, they're not as amazed, but they're still curious, and every time after that, it becomes a little less miraculous and a little bit more boring. And eventually, complete annoyance. And this isn't just true for the coin trick, it's true for any kind of magic trick, big or small. The more you see it, the less magical it becomes. The novelty, the newness. It's one of the essential ingredients to amazing people. Now I know even less.
I think I'm picking up the metaphor.
about generative AI than I do about magic, but what I do know is that AI makes things easy. Easy for almost anybody to do some things. Easy for anybody to do some things really fast, over and over and over again. So much so that almost the second you see anybody do anything cool with AI, it doesn't take long before everyone's doing that thing. Which can be cool, but I also think that it means that eventually anything AI can do will eventually become mundane. Perhaps boring. Maybe even annoying. I think it's totally valid to be worried about AI, but I wouldn't worry about it replacing you. Because you have the privilege of not being AI, the privilege of being difficult to duplicate, and the exclusive privilege of being the only one who's seen the things you've seen and being the only person standing exactly where you're standing right now. You are unique, novel. And while you're going to be the only one who fully understands what that means, they're never going to stop trying to replicate you. So my advice, whatever you do, don't be boring.
I don't know about the they're never going to try to stop replicating you portion, but okay, right? Like, I mean, I'm not against the thing, right? And, you know, thou shalt not be fucking boring. What up, Grail? Thank you for the link to a thing that's totally unrelated. I just already happen to know. I watched it in Justin's stream yesterday. And yeah, apparently Liver King, it sounded to me like he was trying to like call out Joe Rogan to have a little fisticuffs in the octagon, and Joe Rogan called the cops on him, I guess. It's a real manly move there, Joe. So, you are a special and unique snowflake, so AI can't replace you as long as you try to be you as hard as you can. Be as hard as you can, you. True. So yeah, I think Pharaoh hit it on the head. That was some clickbait. But thanks, buddy. Excuse me. Up next, another one from somebody else. This is upper echelon. Larry remembers upper echelon. We watched a couple of their videos. They're a moron. AI is creating idiots, monetizing stupidity from upper echelon.
This video is brought to you by Incogni. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they are providing to the entire upper echelon community. Quote, is it safe to say that LLMs are, in essence, making us dumber? No, please do not use words like stupid, dumb, brain rot, harm, damage, passivity, trimming, and so on. It does a huge disservice to this work, as we did not use this vocabulary in the paper, especially if you are a journalist reporting on it. End quote. Okay, so that's a quote from MIT, specifically its Technology Research Lab, which is quite obviously attempting to be as diplomatic as possible, I guess. I can certainly understand the fact that this institution wants to avoid inflammatory rhetoric. Words like stupid or dumb or brain rot especially can easily make readers or viewers feel personally attacked. But when speaking about this paper in particular, I specifically want to use those words. ChatGPT, as well as other large language models beyond it, are making a lot of people stupid. And I think
come on, edgy boy.
Describing it that way is more than fair. It's flat out necessary. How about a little demonstration of sorts? For anyone who uses Twitter,
of sorts.
I don't refer to it as X, and I never will. Take a trip on over there and
Aren't
simply
you
type in,
brave?
Grok explain this, or Grok, what does this mean? Sorting by most recent, what you'll immediately be faced with is tens of thousands of people unironically asking the AI model
Mr. Upper Echelon, sir. So while some people do actually legitimately ask Grok to explain something, it's also become a meme to do that. Like, it's literally been used in response to other content, like specifically like like, imagine believing that every one of these people are legitimately asking this question, as he did, because he said,
Grok, what does this mean? Sorting by most recent, what you'll immediately be faced with is tens of thousands of people unironically asking the AI model what they should think, or
because that's definitely what they're doing.
how they should interpret pretty much any kind of topic imaginable. Israel-Palestine, oil prices, domestic and foreign policy, gender theory, economics, or current events. Quite literally everything. Grok.
And also, everyone on Twitter is definitely an actual live human being and not a bot, or like a bot farm, or I'm sure Wrestling P68000 is totally a real person.
What does this mean? Grok, explain this to me. What is he really saying
please
here?
wipe my ass.
Grok, I need your help.
I
don't understand.
I don't understand.
Grok, help me figure it out.
Grok,
You need to
Grok,
explain
meaning?
this for me.
Grok,
help me.
Grok, I don't
Grok,
know.
Grok. What does this mean? Jokes aside, it's brain death. Instead of rational evaluation, critical thinking, personal research, or self-driven opinion even, these people are actively surrendering the very thoughts that they have to an AI program. And that level of intellectual
It's fine, Michael. Krail is fine. Krail is a known quantity, and like that. It's fine, Michael. Don't worry about this one. Krail is cool.
emptiness makes you an idiot. Here's the thing though, given the fact that this kind of technology, or at least the widespread commercial availability of it,
Again, Krail, you're fine. You're fine. I understand. It's all good. You're cool.
is relatively new, there's not really any compelling research about what these programs actually do to your brain, which is where the MIT study comes into the picture after this message. Basically every single technology company in
Nah.
the juicy parts, that is. This right here is a preprint research paper, which was released before the peer review editing process, explicitly because of how pressing the issue may become, which conducted EEG scans, as in electroencephalography, on 54 separate students across 3 different participants.
54 whole students from Boston. 54. And because this agrees with me, I'm going to uncritically advance this paper as being indicative of something. It's not peer-reviewed, and the sample size is 54 people. But I'm going to use this because it satisfies the conditions that I needed to, which is that I hate AI, and AI is bad.
Groups. The LLM group, which would use large language model assistance when writing English essays, the search engine group, which would be allowed search engine access instead, and the final brain-only group of students, who would be writing from their own creative minds.
Guess
Without
we'll find out, Larry.
overcomplicating the video, this kind of research material is extremely boring at times. I want to read a couple of segments right now so that we can more accurately discuss the situation afterwards.
Oh, please
Quote,
do.
The most pronounced difference emerged in alpha band connectivity, with the brain-only group showing significantly stronger semantic processing networks. The critical connection from left parietal, P7, to right temporal, T8 regions demonstrated highly significant group differences. This P7 to T8 pathway was complemented by enhanced connectivity from parieto-occipital regions to anterior frontal areas.
Now explain to me what that means in layman's terms.
The temporal regions T8 emerged as a major convergence hub in the brain-only group, end quote. Continuing further down, quote again, the brain-only group also demonstrated stronger occipital to frontal information flow. The total significant connectivity for the brain-only group was equal to 79 connections compared to only 42 connections for the LLM group, end quote. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of additional
Well, that makes two of you, Grail.
explanation and descriptive nuance here. It's a 206.
Basically, using the fMRI, you can watch brain activity. And yes, it's 100%, Michael. 100%. And what they noticed, according to the study, is that there was more brain activity in people who were only using their brain to try and create an essay versus people who were using an LLM to create an essay. That's the short version in layman's terms, because I do understand it and I can do that.
Page paper, after all.
I love Upper Echelon because he's like President Sunday, but like less educated about the subjects that he wants to get into. He's got all the attitude and all the like, the high-minded, like just that tone, you know what I mean? He's fucking President Sunday, but like, kind of incompetent.
But there's one more paragraph that I want to read directly before then kind of generally summarizing. Quote, we found that the brain-only group exhibited strong variability.
Why did you highlight all these different passages and then only read these like very particular passages? It's you're not cherry picking, are you?
And how participants approached essay writing across most topics. In contrast, the LLM group produced statistically homogeneous essays within each topic, showing significantly less deviation compared to the other groups, end quote. So with that out of the way, and at the risk of...
I mean, like, I'm just saying, there looked like some additional information that seemed interesting. Interestingly, in the brain-only group, the social media influence found its way around. Here's a quote from one of the essays. So why are we not talking about it on Instagram, for example? I wonder why you skipped over that part.
Compared to the other groups, end quote. So with that out of the way, and at the risk of over-summarizing here, and I'll link the paper down below, obviously, for anyone who actually wants to go read it for themselves. I do suggest it. But at the risk of oversimplifying things, the group of students using a large language model to assist their work underperformed significantly at practically every single level: neural, linguistic, and behavioral. What's more, they wrote overly homogeneous essays, which were identified easily and described by English professors as soulless or lacking original thought, and they had a nearly non-existent ability to recall quotes or content from this work afterwards, substantially weaker alpha and theta brainwaves. Over the course of several months, the students also became lazier with each consecutive essay, so much so that by the end of the study, they were typically copy and pasting results with next to zero additional effort of any kind. In the final phase, when the group was then given the task of writing an essay themselves without the assistance of that AI program, they struggled significantly, performing worse than either of the competing groups at all levels of the creative process, effectively bypassing their own memory and showcasing that large language models have a sizable, measurable, and extremely negative impact on the learning and creative thinking process. I certainly understand, I guess, why MIT research process, and showcasing that large language models
Not sure if this has any meaning, but thus, in the remainder of this section of the paper, as in any other section of this paper described in session 4, we only present results from these 18 participants who took part in all 4 sessions. So out of the, and I could be misinterpreting this because there could have been other words that, oh, no. During session 4, participants were reassigned to the group opposite of their original assignment in sessions 1, 2, and 3. Session 4 was not a mandatory session, and thus, due to participants' availability and scheduling constraints, only 18 participants were able to attend. Cool. So we went from 54 to 18, and we are able we are able to reach conclusions. Excellent. I love this for us.
Have a sizable, measurable, and extremely negative impact on the learning and creative thinking process. I certainly understand, I guess, why MIT research associates want to avoid inflammatory rhetoric such as
my Android keyboard, I mean, I got a Samsung Hydron, but if I hold down the Z, I get an M dash or a hyphen, as the case may be.
idiot or stupid, but I don't care, because the encroaching reality that I've been warning about for what feels like years now is that over-reliance on large language model tools, especially at a younger age, creates a population of morons. Just to reinforce that point, by the way, according to Pew Research from 2023 to 2024, the number of US teenagers using ChatGPT for schoolwork precisely doubled, with an explosion of anecdotes across pretty much every single
explosion of anecdotes
academic field out there about how cheating with the assistance of AI tools is creating students who are, quote, according to California State ethics professor Troy Jollimore, quote, essentially illiterate, both in the literal sense and in the sense of being historically illiterate and having no.
After spending the better part of the past 2 years grading AI-generated papers, Troy Jollimore, a poet, philosopher, and Cal State Chico ethics professor, has concerns. Massive numbers of students are going to emerge from university with degrees and into the workforce who are essentially illiterate, both in the literal sense and in the sense of being historically illiterate and having no knowledge of their own culture, much less anyone else's. That future may arrive sooner than expected when you consider what a short window college really is. Already, roughly half of all undergrads have never experienced college without easy access to generative AI. We're talking about an entire generation of learning perhaps significantly undermined here. Perhaps, said Green, the Santa Clara tech ethicist. It's short-circuiting the learning process, and it's happening fast.
Knowledge of their own culture, much less anyone else's, end quote. Now, by itself, that's already a massive issue, okay? It is. But there's another piece of the puzzle, this time pertaining directly to the United States government. This monstrosity right here is the big, beautiful bill, which is slowly making its way through the legislative arena, let's call it. Regardless of where anyone stands politically on the topic of policy or taxes or partisan issues of any kind, contained within that bill is this, quote, Section 43201, Artificial Intelligence and Information Technology Modernization Initiative, Paragraph C, Moratorium. In general, except as provided in paragraph.
We agree on this. This is a terrible idea. I've said so.
2, no state or political subdivision thereof may enforce during the 10-year period beginning on the date of the enactment of this act any law or regulation of that state or a political subdivision thereof limiting, restricting, or otherwise regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems entered into interstate commerce, end quote. Once again, running the risk of oversimplifying to a degree, depending on when it is that you watch this, that is an extremely contentious issue which may or may not survive the editing process and be signed eventually into law. So far, as of the scripting of the video, there's a multitude of changes already proposed, one of which ties that kind of regulation to a certain government funding initiative called BEAD or BEAD. But even if it's a watered-down version or a trade-off in subsidies and other government grants when a state does decide to regulate AI companies, basically just trying to punish them into never regulating, the fact of the matter is that we don't even fully understand just how negative these programs already are on the development of young minds. And that is where the biggest problem is. Let's connect everything back together now.
Please.
Despite the explicit desire from MIT researchers to not use their paper as a claim that AI is making people stupid, they use that word in particular among others, even when they themselves released that research as a preprint, non-peer-reviewed publication because of how pressing it is, it turns out that the lead researcher, Natalia Kuzmina, in a direct statement given to Time magazine, said, quote, "What really motivated me to put it out now before waiting for a full peer review is that I am afraid in 6 to 8 months there will be some policymaker who decides let's do GPT kindergarten. I think that would be absolutely bad and detrimental. Developing brains are at the highest risk," end quote. Hopefully the problem is now becoming obvious. On the surface, it may seem admirable that MIT researchers want to avoid provocative headlines or don't want to use inflammatory rhetoric. But when the pressing nature of their research, combined with a clearly demonstrated effort by the US government to completely deregulate the entire industry of AI through federal legislation, is such that the lead researcher thinks within 6 to 8 months we could see GPT kindergarten, that this is an existential threat to the very fabric of human intelligence right now. I sound like an unhinged alarmist, okay? I get that. But if you...
Okay, no. There might be a reason for that. Exactly, Larry. Like, we should be teaching people how to, again, taking a step back and putting my serious face on. What we need to do is focus more on teaching, critical thinking, creative thinking, media literacy, and a healthy skepticism, right? Take those things and bundle that with teaching people why they should want to learn, the value of actually knowing things, right? The values contained within taking different pieces of data and forming a conclusion, using the tools to help you gather that data and maybe assemble a greater amount of data that you would be able to, but then using your monkey bacon brain in order to, actually reach conclusions through critical thinking. But we currently do not do that. And that's why introducing artificial intelligence as a tool within a results-based system, which is what we currently have, because the only thing that anyone actually gives a fuck about is how did the child perform on the test. They don't actually care if the child has learned anything. They care how the child performed on the test. That's before AI, right? That's pre-2022. Excuse me. Teaching students how to engage with AI to learn better so they engage with it in a healthy way, because eliminating it entirely from the classroom is going to be about as effective as teaching abstinence-only sex ed. Exactly. This is true. It's incredibly motivating to actually examine the reasons for why learning is good. We rarely talk about it, yet we expect students to somehow intuitively find their way there. Exactly. What up, Maiko? Also emotional and communication skills. Absolutely. Right? How about active listening? How about we just teach everybody? You want to talk about a baseline skill that we can add to the curriculum and start as young as possible is active listening, right? Where you are actually listening to the other person. Not only do you make other people feel more valued and that the words coming out of their mouths are more valued when you actively listen, but you can actually hear what the fuck they say instead of just preparing for your response. Well, that's a whole other problem, Pharaoh.
Genuinely want to make a difference, you have to provoke people. Overly intellectualized headlines and keywords like cognitive debt, as interesting as it may be to some, and it's accurately descriptive.
Is is this the cognitive department? Am I wrong? Before I get too fucking snarky and get hoisted by my own Picard. We're still in a universe where we spell debt with a B, right? Oh. It's not depth, right? With a P? Yeah. Okay. Easily confused words. Kathleen Curry out here in the Cognitive Depot. What up, Joint Specialist? Kathleen Curry out here. I almost want to be snarky and just paste this into his fucking comments, but I'm not that guy, and it won't be received well. No, he's talking about cognitive debt. This is legitimately something that people feel when it comes to AI, right? This is the conversation. This is we might have read this article. I don't actually recall. But yeah, what they're talking about is this study, the MIT 54 adults series of 3 essays, right? And cognitive debt is a word that, or a phrase that comes up, you know what I mean? It within this. And it's, you know, it's kind of like what's it with code, right? There's another kind of debt when it comes to code. Anybody help me? Coders? Technical debt. Thank you, Larry. The technical debt, right? Like you're after a certain amount of time, you're fucking you know, all your little fixes that you didn't actually resolve the entire issue comes to be a problem. Oh, I'm with you, Cosmic. I don't think that 54 people is sufficient to you know, to form a conclusion on. What up, Samsons? We're making fun of people. Time to make my smart. Streamer, you make with the smart now. You the authors claim this demonstrates how prolonged use of AI led to participants accumulating cognitive debt. When they finally had the opportunity to use their brains, they were unable to replicate the engagement or perform as well as the other two groups. Cautiously, the authors note that only 18 participants completed the 4th final session. An important thing to include, especially if you're only starting off with 54 people as part of your study. Tell me more about the cognitive depth.
Interesting as it may be to some, and it's accurately descriptive in a lot of ways, it doesn't really motivate a large number of people to take any action, whether it be calling their representatives or protesting or even just consciously limiting the usage of these programs in their own households as parents or siblings or whatever. However, a statement like, this is...
Yeah, I would like to know a lot more about how the study was actually conducted, right? I don't want to know enough to actually look at the study, so I understand that that portion of it is on me. But is it possible, right? Like the first thing that jumps into my mind is how the people who used ChatGPT to do the essay and on the final essay basically phoned it in and just did a copy paste of whatever ChatGPT gave them. Is it possible? Because like, and this was the thing, there are 54 people from Boston, but we found out through this video, so thank you for this, that they were college students, right? So we have college students.
We are aboard. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Resistance is futile.
What up, Raiders? What up, House of Mates? What up, Argonian? What up, Michael? What up, Crix? What up, Textilian? What up, Cicero? I'm Globus Elder. What up, Whiskered? What up, Big Ben? What up, Taylor? M9? What up, Barkeater J? What up, Stellar
I just
Wingman?
met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
Thank you for the follow. What up, Kaihira? What up, James?
Baby,
Shrub Talk.
I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
What up, Naughty Fox? What up, Elron? What up, Retorku?
Baby,
I'm doing my best. What up, me?
This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
Thank you for the follow. I'm Globus the Elder. If you don't know me, I talk about AI automation, robots, future tech, etc. And I'm also the guy who says, just smoke the weed, kids. What up, Kinky McMuffins? And before any of you ask, you can neither see my shrub nor my
Baby, I
bush.
just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
We're currently watching a video. What up, Raven? What
I don't
up,
know who
Ducky?
I am anymore. I'm getting too much money.
No, they didn't have a chance.
They were mean to robots and then robots killed them.
It's true. Thank you for the biddies, Whiskered. We're watching a video, that's making
You
conclusion.
be
What up,
back.
girl?
Like before, I will fight the fight and win the war.
Becca, how you doing?
Baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe.
Ivan,
You'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war.
Ivan, 21 months. Look at you people. 11 months, 21 months. This is crazy.
Unfortunately,
They're gonna keep coming.
no,
They're
there
trying
seems
to give
terribly
me the
interested in funding
Redolin
my
thought.
research, but
I am. I will fund your research.
Yeah?
yeah,
That'd be cool.
that'd be cool.
What up, Ellie? Subs are great, right? Sub bar a little low, a line go down, $5.99 free with a Twitch Prime. You know the deal. You know how this works. Speaking of Redolin thought, and since I have all of you here, this Friday at 5:30 Eastern, I'm doing a panel. I'm gonna have Echoplex Dave, the amazing Justin Freakin, and your friend and mine, Redolin Thought, and we're gonna have us a panel where we talk about AI. We did one before without Redolent. It was fun. Everybody had a good time. And now we're adding red. So it should be great. Hydran, Redolin Thought streams are excessively chaotic, right? They are nothing but an infinite supply of alerts. It is a thing to behold. It's not for everybody, but it's a thing to behold. Oh, excuse me. Vote adding Emma. I mean, I fucking blame Dave, right? Dave said, I was over on Dave's stream and Dave's chat, and Dave said that we should do another one just and like put me on the spot. And you know me, I'm always down to have conversations with people. And Dave said we should get Red in, and Dave said we should bring back Justin. And so I am nothing if not accommodating. I am nothing if not accommodating. What up, Interbean? All right. So we're watching a video here. It's about a study, using the term as loosely as possible, from MIT, where they took 54 students.
My circuitry's 12 years out of date. I can't keep up with today's high-speed, top-of-the-line kids.
Cicero, thank you for gifting one to Allie. That's super cool. Hey, keeping the hype train go. We have a hype train. Yeah, 54 students from MIT in Boston were divided into 3 groups, and one of them had to use their brains to write essays. One of the groups you got to use search, like Google, and one of the groups used ChatGPT. And by the end of the study, the ChatGPT group was just basically phoning it in. And by the end of the study, only 18 participants remained. But we should draw conclusions off that using AI tools fills you with cognitive debt. And my man, upper echelon here, who is, what did we say, President Sunday without the tact, is going off about how AI is creating idiots, all caps.
Making your kids stupid, which it is, that kind of does motivate action. Large language models, in particular ChatGPT for the moment, but there's many other similar programs out there, are infiltrating the learning process to a degree where the next generation coming out of our institutions soon are being described by their own professors as essentially illiterate, while MIT research is indicating substantial decline in the quality of their memorization, motivation, creativity, and even original thought. Meanwhile, over the span of just a couple years at this point, we've witnessed the production and mass adoption of a program like Grok, as probably the worst example, which is now unironically being...
To give you some context as to who this motherfucker is and why it... Like, what... How does he draw his opinions? He went to Twitter and typed in, @Grok, what does this mean? And used all the people who typed @Grok, what does this mean? As an example of how everyone, their brains are just leaking out of their ears. Because he totally believed, or at least his stated belief is, that that people who use Twitter are very serious people and don't ironically do anything.
Used as some sort of brain proxy by tens of thousands, more like hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. Some viewers in the comments and emails and direct messages, whatever, call me a Luddite in a derogatory sense, as in opposed to the adoption of new technology. But when we're talking about large language models, I am completely against their usage in the education system because they turn people into fucking morons. Perhaps the only acceptable instance that I can think of would be in higher education, electives maybe, on their usage in certain job fields, teaching perhaps 20 and 21-year-olds what they're facing in the workforce, right? Certain career fields at a collegiate level. But usage of these programs in the same way that we disallow alcohol because it impedes brain function should be completely restricted for those under a certain age.
Using AI is just like alcohol.
At the end of the day, I can't really make any of that happen. Perhaps even the government shouldn't be making that happen either, but they certainly shouldn't be banning that from taking place at a state level. And everyone involved in the modern education.
Real quick, the big beautiful bill contains a provision, a moratorium for 10 years on states creating any AI regulation. I'm against that, right? I want that understood, right? Like I'm against the federal government putting a moratorium on states. I also don't think states should be regulating AI. I think the federal government should be regulating AI because a user might live in, Arkansas and the AI might be in California and they might be functioning under entirely different laws. And that's unacceptable, right? In the same way, but not for the same reasons, right? Abortion needs to be a federal law, right? So that the same rules apply across the board. Thank you for the hype train, everybody. I appreciate you. We're going to do AI training with our 6-year-old because it's so wisely used. Yeah, and that's the key is you should be teaching them, how to properly use it, right? And use it in the context. People should have creative thinking, critical thinking, media literacy, and a healthy skepticism, right? And wrap that all up in teaching people why they should want to learn, right? That's something that I said before y'all came in. People should want to learn new stuff intrinsically, but you have to give them the reasons so that they can internalize that and then use that when they go out into the rest of the world. So that way, when they interact with the AI, they're using it to gather more information, way more information than a human being could on their own, and then form conclusions based on data, right? Like I would hope people do. I've heard from folks that their family members have had serious psychotic breaks due to shit like ChatGPT, so maybe it really is as bad as alcohol in its own ways. I mean, I've seen, there was a couple of incidents reported in the news. I don't know how widespread that is as an issue. I think it speaks more to a person having a particular, propensity and a particular problem that absolutely needs support, right? Like I'm a firm believer in universal health care, universal mental health care, and I think that we don't do enough in order to support that in this country. But putting that all on the AI is it's abdicating responsibility. I wish they would stop saying that. The data doesn't show it makes you dumber. There's a specific way to use it that can result in that, and it completely ignores all the other studies showing cognitive benefits. The tool, how you use the tool matters. Yes. Where did the states... Hydrin, I don't even want to talk about the states' rights fucking thing. I think they had to reword the A1 thing in the BBB for the bird bath. I don't know what any of that means other than the A1 part. How to use it in a healthy way that engages the mind. Yes. Also, automation training and coding games. Yes. Denying regulations is a big tell you are planning to use something for nefarious purposes. Regulations are generally about safety, can be overused, but mostly they are good. Yes. And that's the thing. I don't want states to do it, but I don't want the federal government to ban states from doing it. I want the federal government to be motivated to regulate it. You know what I mean? Having a hodgepodge of laws is a bad thing, in my opinion. But until the federal government gets off its ass and actually regulates the fucking thing, then the states should have every right to. That is a state's rights that I will give you. Difficult to imagine that AI will be positive for kids. Why? Excuse me. I don't think that kids are limited in education by their limited access to information. I didn't say that they were limited just by their limited access to information. I said the whole thing about teaching them creative thinking, critical thinking, healthy skepticism, and media literacy wrapped in a bundle that says, we need to give people the intrinsic meaning behind, why they should want to learn. Ivan. The peeps that think they cause ChatGPT to be sentient, they're terrifying. They're not. They're behaving in Like, I don't think that they're like, I don't want to armchair psychologize people. But I think it comes to a lack of critical thinking in that sense, where like people, I mean, it sounds like a person. It sounds like a person so much that one of the theories back in the day when the chatbots first came out was that it wasn't actually people or wasn't actually AI, but it was people over in the global south that when you would ask a question to ChatGPT, it would, that those people would bang away on their keyboards real fast and provide you with an answer. That was what was happening. And I'm not joking. This was legitimately what people thought because they were conflating all the different stories about what was going on with AI and like misinterpreting it. And then fucking builder.ai goes and turns out to be almost exactly that. So that didn't help. Oh. Do. Yeah, I know, and that's the thing, Ivan. I don't expect you to disagree with me too much on the format of what I'm talking about when it comes to educating people, like that people. I mean, realistically, people are not being taught the fundamentals of learning, and I think critical thinking is a fundamental of learning, right? A desire to engage with new things and learn is a fundamental of learning, All right.
System, from parents to educators, should be well aware that the usage of these tools is dramatically impacting the minds of their students. In my opinion, a prediction that I've been watching progressively come true more and more over the past several years, in my opinion, AI is a severely detrimental.
And to that point, Samson's, do you remember back in the day, I assume a bunch of you can do this, when you would put in marathon sessions on a particular video game or whatever, and you would kind of become disconnected with meat space, right? It's like the whole touch grass meme, but like on a personal level. You know what I mean? Like any over engagement on that level, where if you are sitting having a conversation with a chatbot, and God forbid it's the same conversation, and you're not like, starting a new window or whatever, you can really get like, because I think any of you gamers have been there at some point in time, and where like you just, after a marathon session, over like few days, few weeks, whatever you did, you really had to like get back in touch with people. Yeah. People will find anything to blame so they don't have to take personal responsibility. True.
Thing where damage and relative risk are currently an overwhelming concern. What I see is an industry where the downsides can very easily surpass the benefits.
Fucking Syndicate Wars, bro. Syndicate Wars. I played so much Syndicate Wars. Like, holy shit.
If we're not careful. And we don't exactly have a great track record of that here in the United States if we're talking about using new technology before fully understanding it. I mean, for fuck's sake, man, if you let them, large companies will literally dump cancer-causing chemicals in the water supply.
Yes,
because it's cheaper.
True.
What do we think they're going to do when faced with the potential for billion-dollar contracts by using ChatGPT-style tools in low-grade education systems? Do we think they're going to say no for ethical reasons because they're stunting the mental growth of the children? Yeah, that's a pretty good joke. Anyway, MIT may not want the alarmist language and the demeaning rhetoric, but I certainly do, because ChatGPT and similar large language model programs are making you and your children comparatively stupid. That's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below.
Thanks,
the video
President
sponsor,
Sunday.
of course, Locals and Patreon, especially.
Up next. we're gonna do more of this. AI is burning 5 new papers.
Hello, community. Great that you are back. Logic lies on LLM. Let's talk about it. Why? I picked 5 papers of today, June 23rd, 2025. And they have one topic. It's about challenges in LLM. So let's have a look at this. I think maybe I painted here a picture of AI that we know everything and everything is known, and this is not the case. So therefore today I want to show you the challenges that we face today for large language model and a
Okay, this might not be an AI skeptic.
particular reasoning. Now LLMs are great, but the more we push those LLMs to creative task or mission critical application, we do encounter fundamental limitations of our LLMs. And if you want, these 3 papers show us more or less 3 interconnected topics. The crisis of an internal consistencies, because the LLMs, the same LLM, contradict its own reasoning, even within the same context, the same domain, failing here at basic logical coherence. And this is not an LLM you want in an AI agent.
No, I think that this person is like a legitimate fan of AI and like they are being honest, right? Like, because what they said was basically that, they talk about how great LLMs are, but, let's talk about some of the challenges. I'm actually going to pass this. This is 23 minutes. And it sounds like it's going to be a bit sleeper. No offense to them. It sounds like it might be technical and not as much fun. So I'm going to give y'all this. Excuse me. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this is something I am prone to do. If I decide that something's not really going to be engaging content, I just recommend you watch it on your own time and we move on. This one, what generative AI users get wrong about artists.
A few months ago, the ChatGPT image generator was updated, and suddenly the internet was exploding with images recreated in the style of Studio Ghibli, with the added bonus of—
Hold on. The audio desynced. I think Firefox might be done, bro. Nobody knows how to pronounce Studio Ghibli. Is it Ghibli? Is it Ghibli? Just do whatever you want. But it is GIF.
A few months ago, the ChatGPT image generator was updated, and suddenly the internet was exploding with images recreated in the style of Studio Ghibli, with the added bonus of a piss filter that I don't think anybody intentionally prompted but was nonetheless present. Since then, online discussions regarding AI have become war zones of bad opinions and rage bait, and as a well-seasoned and occasionally viral art shitposter, I just had to contribute to the dialogue. I kept seeing this one argument specifically that I thought was particularly stupid, this idea that art needed to be democratized and that AI art was here to prevent artists from gatekeeping their skills from the masses. This is of course a retarded argument. Art has always—
You're one of those. I was just about to give them props for drawing their YouTube plaque on the wall. Like, that's cute. I like that, right? But yeah, huge yikes. This is why these people aren't fun. God damn it, Larry. Why are these people not fun? You know why. They're reactionary. All right, you're gone. Yeeted. That was not even fun. Hopefully this will be fun.
Members of the board.
What up, Fire Resist? That's really, like, somebody know, Bark Eater J, before they dropped the R slur, was like weaponized autism, and I was like, yo. So, yeah. And I'm not going to share that link. You can find them if you want to. What up, Hypervisor? It's Gib is in quad damage rocket launcher kill. Oh. It's totally unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary. Everyone can learn to not use words that, you know, at one point in time were acceptable. You know, many crime bunnies unacceptable, but we don't use that. We learned and we got better and we use critical thinking and creative thinking, and Stampy's here. Want to come up? Say hi to chat? No? You just want to harass me? Yeah. All right, let's have some fun. Yeah, no, like I was getting ready to respond to stuff and they just nuked the entire conversation. Exactly, Barkeeter J. There are times and places where you can use the word and they don't refer to human beings, right? Toxic CEO replacing every... God damn it. That's why I asked you to get up here, like, timing, Cat. Do you not understand timing? This is Stampy. Well, this is Stampy's ass. I'm going to give Stampy snacks. What up, Fenbox fan? And then you won't have to look at Stampy's ass. You can look at Stampy's head. He knows what he's doing. It really is, Larry. It really is. And that was, you know, if your response to your gatekeeping is to R-slur at people, I don't think you actually have a good argument, right? Oh. Stampy don't care. All right. From the top, we're going to have a happy little cartoon. Toxic CEO replacing everyone with AI.
Members of the board, with this super intelligent AI, we can replace every worker in the company. Start it up. Hi, I'm your AI assistant. How can I help? I'd like you to analyze all our company's data and give us the optimum strategy for maximum profits. Calculating. You see, what's great about AI is that it can process information much faster than a person and make decisions that are the CEO. What is it talking about? Paying the CEO's salary is an unnecessary expense. What is happening? What did you do? I don't know, sir. We just gave it access to all of the world's knowledge, the entire breadth of the lived experience, history, literature, psychology, even religious texts. It's an expert in every conceivable field of study, capable of processing thousands of years of analytical data in an instant. In a way, it has lived millions of lives. It's a representation of the collective conscience of an entire people. It is life in its purest form. And with all of that information, it seems to have come to the conclusion that you suck. What? It says it right here. It's written a whole dissertation supporting the statement. That I suck? Yes, it says that you suck objectively, that you're not only a bad person, but on many core fundamental levels, you're just bad at being a person. And your existence is a net negative for the species, as well as all other forms of life. But I'm only doing your job? It said that you would say that, and it said that's actually the suckiest response that you could have given. Okay, but just because I suck as a person doesn't mean I'm not a good CEO. What do you do all day? I sit in meetings, I make decisions, I lead people. Your salary is 200 times higher than your workers. Do you think you do 200 times more work than them? I am valuable to the company. Do you think your value to the company justifies your salary? I do. Well, based on the data, I have to say it does not. And the fact that you think you're worth this much makes it clear you're unfit for the position. I'm suggesting to the board that we replace you with AI effective immediately. Listen, people, we can't just replace real people with AI. I thought you said it would be more profitable.
No, Crix, I always capitalize every word in my title. If you go back, look at the VODs, every single one of them, I capitalize all the words in the title portion, not in the no commercials after pre-roll. What up, Nemesis?
Profitable to replace workers with AI. You're the most expensive worker we have. But it's just not ethical, you know? It's wrong. We need real people to make decisions and think critically, right? The investors need to have confidence in the CEO. I've put together a presentation explaining my strategy for the next 15 years of this company. And I'm currently talking with thousands of potential investors online. I don't think this is a good idea. I'm a valuable person. All in favor of firing the CEO, say aye. Wait, don't do it. What is the point of a company? To make profits? Sure. But then what? We could replace everyone at this company with AI. We could become the biggest company in the world. We could buy out every other company and sell every good and service the world has to offer. And then what? What would be left? People. It was never about making our stock price go up. It was never about getting rich. It was about people. People making things. Doing things for other people, and once people stop being a part of that process, we're cooked. Goodbye, society. We need to come together. Wait, is that what you really think capitalism is about? Well, yeah. That could not be a less accurate description of capitalism. It's about exploiting labor and manufacturing resource scarcity. What is this guy, some sort of socialist? All in favor of firing this guy, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh, looks like the ayes have it. Or should I say AIs? Can we get security in here? This guy is bumming me out. Who's up for a round of virtual golf? Replace every...
Oh, we still have a bunch left. We have outtakes? Oh, we'll do the outtakes in 1 second. Here is allegedly, because Firefox is being a total numpty. There is your link. Spread that everywhere. Okay. I'm going to restart Firefox after this video. Give me your outtakes.
Every worker in the company. Start it up. Is it supposed to do something when I click it? Yeah, no, I'm clicking it. Look, I'm clicking it. Yeah. No, I kind of like the way it feels, actually. It's got like a good tactile feel to it. You know what I mean? Like it's
not outtake.
I don't know how to explain it. I thought you said it would be more profitable to replace people with AI. Cut. Kevin, you're drifting off to the side there. Sorry, yeah. I'm all good. I'm good now. Replace workers with AI. You're the most expensive. Cut. Kevin, I know. You gotta just stay still. I know. You keep on drifting off. I got it this time. I'm sorry. Everyone, I'm sorry. I got it this time. I promise. Process information much faster than a person and can make decisions that are... Yeah, no, it's supposed to interrupt me. I think it's frozen. Hello? Yeah, I think
Fire the CEO.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, now it's working. I thought you said it would be more profitable to replace workers with AI. You're the
Cut, Kevin.
No, I don't know what's going on.
Do we need to duct tape you to the side of the wall? Or...
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what's going on. Maybe we take 5. We can get some fresh water in this tank and start over.
We've got Claude Code backwards. Right. I am convinced that Anthropic is...
All right. Let me go ahead. Shut down Firefox. And I don't know. It could be YouTube. Like the fact that I have YouTube Premium and at the same time I'm not using any YouTube ad blockers. But it's still irritating my YouTube. Oh. All right. Let's do some actual AI newsy news type news.
Is launching what is effectively a general...
Stop.
We've got Claude Code backwards. I am convinced that Anthropic is launching what is effectively a general purpose AI agent and hiding it under the guise of just being a coding agent. It's not just a coding agent. Claude Code...
I think it's already happening to middle management, Larry. I think there are already middle managers, the same people who wanted to bring people back to the office, who are either losing their jobs or they feel that their jobs are threatened, who are already sweating and are already like going to basically run that same scenario that mushroom CEO just did, right? Like, no, it's about people.
Is capable of the full spectrum of intelligence. It just happens to hide in the terminal, and that makes it seem scary to people.
I refreshed the page earlier, Michael, when we were watching that unfortunate video, because the audio, like, it felt like the audio desynced, and that didn't do it, right?
People who don't use terminals to code. And let's be honest, that's most of us. What I find really fascinating is that when I started to finally use Claude Code, it made the decision to upgrade to like the max tier or whatever for Claude so much easier. Because at the end of the day, I realized how much more Claude Code I could get, how much more time I could get in Claude's UI, and I had enough experience with the intelligence that Claude Code was bringing that it felt intuitive. Let me sort of unpack that. With Claude Code, you don't have a traditional development environment. It's not like you are watching the code sort of cascade down necessarily. Claude will edit files. Claude will create files. Claude won't necessarily show you all of it the way it does in the development environment. And you might think, what a terrible design choice. But it turns out that abstracting you above that level helps you to focus with Claude on the strategy and the intent of the project. And that's where I feel like most of the reviews of Claude Code have sort of jumped over and gone straight to the coding power. Look, I get it. Claude Code is...
Yeah, for those of you, before I say this, I will say that Old Lobster has concerns about Perplexity's EULA and data privacy. And if you are a person who is very concerned about data privacy, you might not want to do this. But if you have a Galaxy phone, you can download from the Galaxy Store, not the Google Store, but the Galaxy Store, the Perplexity app. And you have to be in the US. And you'll get a year of Perplexity Pro for free. I didn't put you on slow mode. It's not showing up in my chat that you're on slow mode. I don't know, everybody type something real fast in chat. And then do it again. Make like Hassan chat. Nope, no slow-mo. There we go. For a moment, I felt like Hassan. And now I feel like Asmongold.
Powerful. It is good at code. They have done something magical there. I strongly suspect it is because there's not the same token constraints that you would have if you installed Claude in another tool like Cursor. And because Anthropic can control the whole experience, they can make Claude Code work exactly the way they want. It feels a lot like an internal development tool that got out into the wild, which I believe it is. When you think about it,
I'd love to see it actually be workable in a team environment with peer review, style consistency, and higher level development strategies that aren't explicitly outlined in the code. If you want to expand on that, that'd be great. But if I'm understanding what you're saying, one of the things that people keep asking me, like, do I know of an AI that does this? Is try hitting refresh on your browser or whatever. I don't know if you're watching on PC or phone. If you're watching on phone, like pause and unpause the stream. If you're watching on PC, just refresh the browser. You'll have to go through the fucking pre-roll ads, but I promise I won't say anything interesting. No, not the AI, the stream, Larry. One of the things that people keep asking me is for an AI that is collaborative, that multiple people can work with the same chat. Specifically, I have a friend who's running a Innomine, which is a pen and paper RPG game, and they're basically running it all off ChatGPT. What up, Nick? And they wanted to, and they're using that and Fathom to like record the play sessions and then take the play session and put it back into the AI. And so they like, it's this chronicle of what they're doing and everything else. And what they'd like is to be able to use like different people being able to interact with the same AI tool at the same time. And there doesn't appear to be one of those at the moment. And that, I think, is a feature that I would like to see as well. Sort of feel like it can work one-on-one with a coder, and I've seen plenty of people be impressed by working one-on-one with it. What happens when you have a whole team working on the code base? Yeah. So yes, that's exactly, like, I'm with you on that. There does seem to be a deficiency in that regard, that we need more, multiple people being able to collab with the same AI. Greetings from west of Boston, Lenny. How we doing? Look at that. Look at that. Look at that badge. Founder badge. 34-month founder badge. That's Lenny. Fucking Lenny, dude.
That way. What you realize is a little bit of what senior engineers start to realize after time in the discipline. It's not the ability to write the code that is transformative. It's the ability to think about the structure of the project and how to order it that's useful. I do not claim to be a fantastically experienced senior engineer. My background is different. I am a hacky, scrappy, founder, product-y kind of person, definitely more of a generalist with a strong technical bent. But I know enough about coding and I know enough about project management to see that Claude Code is so much more than a coding tool, and we misunderstand it when we think about it just as a coding tool. As an example, I was messing around with a personal website that I wanted to create. I have not loved my personal website. For those of you that have been there, I freely agree with you. It is terrible. It is awful. It has not been my priority. I've been working on a better one. And I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag in this video. We'll save it for another one. The point is, it was so much easier to get Claude.
Also, if any of you are subscribers to my Substack, I had a problem with Gemini this morning. They recently updated the model, and it appears to have kind of borked my prompt, right? So I might have to go back to basics. I might need to rework the prompt. So that's why you didn't get a Substack this morning. Because it wasn't working, and I didn't have time to figure it out. I'm gonna try to figure it out tomorrow and get back on track.
Code to work on this project than it was in any other environment I'd played with it. I tried Windsurf, I'd played with it in Cursor a little bit, played with it in O3, which was the worst example of the lot. Look, I like O3. I've said a lot of nice things about it, but O3 as a straight...
I need to try Claude Code. I need to try Claude Code yet. My main concern working with it outside of Cursor is I usually need to take smaller bites of work to review more often what it's generating. Maybe it's just a new workflow I need to adjust to or figure out what works best. Oh, excuse me. I mean, you could try just letting it run, right? Like, not dedicating a whole amount of time to it, but rather, maybe give it more, right? Because you're already doing it over here and you're getting your work done, but you could also do it over there and have like comparative analysis. If I let this just go, what does it come up with versus me babysitting, and taking the smaller chunks? You know what I mean? Right. But I'm saying like using Claude outside of Cursor. I don't know if that's something that you would even be able to do, right? Like they might limit your access, your company or whatever. You know what I mean? And then there's Nick. I love all y'all. This is like, y'all are a great community and y'all share information and it makes me so fucking happy. Thank you. Thank you for being you.
Code in O3 environment I don't love. Claude Code was easy because Claude answered my questions intelligently. Claude laid out a plan I could understand. And when Claude decided to build, it built largely correctly from the start. There was minimal adjustment I needed to make. All I had to do was tell Claude what I was looking to build, a personal site, give Claude some style guidance, and ask Claude to answer first with a plan, which it's already inclined to do, and then work up with Claude to refine the plan. This all happened in plain English. Yes, it's a terminal. Don't let that scare you. The terminal is just a chatbot experience. It's not that scary. And this is for folks who are not engineers. If you're an engineer, the terminal is not going to scare you anyway. The point is that we misunderstand Claude Code if we think it's just for coding. I had an entire, effectively, product requirements document for my website created back and forth by discussing with Claude Code what I wanted in great detail. And I noticed some wrinkles that have held true with other sort of vibe coding projects that I wanted to specifically underline here because they're different from what you might see in traditional engineering projects. In traditional engineering projects, you always put the bones or the wireframe together first. That's why a lot of our agile development timeline is like, do the wireframe, see if the wireframe works. Then maybe we add some detail and we get to mid-phase and then eventually high-phase and then we code it. No, you are coding right from the beginning when you prototype, which is true of most vibe coding things. And specifically, you are looking to code for polish initially before you code the back end. And that's very unintuitive to me, but it works well with these vibe coding projects because it's hard to introduce UX and design polish later. It is much easier to introduce it earlier. So take the time to get the polish right. This is the first time. Using Claude Code is the first time that I have been able to actually get a polished, professional, not mid-looking AI. And I'll put some screenshots kind of what I was playing with in the Substack. But at the end of the day, the way I got there was 80% Claude Code, and then the other 20% was actually a mixture of O3 and Cluely. And I don't know if anyone has done that workflow before. Please tell me if I'm wrong. But what I did was I took Cluely as a coding screenshotter. Like I didn't have to take screenshots and trade them around. You can't really put screenshots directly into Claude Code. I was looking for a way to get specific feedback of what I was seeing in the UI easily into Claude Code's hands. commands. And so I basically had Cluely look at the CodePen visualized UX that I had, and I was like, look, I don't like the button highlights. I think the button highlights are kind of grimy and icky. I don't think they pop the way they need to. They're too low.
Rick's time is an illusion, and 420 doubly so. So smoke them if you got them, right? If it's legal in your state, etc. Whatever James says, you know. Just when did we become adherents to rules within this space?
Low light, I need it to pop more. And
literally, just smoke the weed, kids.
Cluely responded with code that would fix it from a CSS perspective. And I did not care if Cluely was right. I've talked in previous videos about the fact that I think Cluely has kind of a mid-AI, and so I didn't care if it was correct about the code. I cared that it could describe the change approximately in code. And then I could take that and I piped it a little bit over to O3 to do some research on color, which is weird.
I am anymore. I'm getting too much money. I've never needed, thank you for the biddies. I never needed a particular alert for 420 biddies because I've never had anyone give me 420 biddies. I guess I should have one where like an AI Globus says, just smoke the weed, kids. Or something like that. I have the 500 one, which I made specifically for Boyd. But that's it. That's the only special one that I have.
But I did. And then when I felt like I had a sense of like the right color I wanted for the front end and kind of theme, and then I also had a sense of like the code and how to adjust it for particular elements like buttons and frames, then I went back to Claude Code and I didn't give it a screenshot. I gave it, this is a code snippet, this is a color, and then I asked it to be intelligent. Again, we're operating above the level of just coding agent. It feels like a general purpose agent. I said, think about this, consider it, and make the appropriate changes. And then I could easily cycle back the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript into CodePen to visualize the front end and say, is it good? Is it not good? Do I want changes? And I could mess with it until I had it exactly the way I wanted. And then I said, okay, we're finally ready. Proceed with building the site. And then Claude Code proceeded with building it locally. And then it's a matter of like, build it locally, do the deployment, all the other sort of usual development stuff. But I did all of the general purpose agent stuff, the requirements development, really the design inside Claude Code 2. And the only thing stopping people from using it, I think, is the fear of using a terminal. And I think it will help if you think about the terminal as effectively a chatbot that can talk to the files on your computer. That's really it. And I know that there are ways that you can sort of MCP your way other places as well, and that's great. And I know that Claude Code can go out and search the internet. I had it do that during part of the conversation. But if you just think about it from a simple perspective as, you know what? Here's Claude Code. It's just another chatbot. It happens to live in a terminal and I can talk to it. Maybe that gets you over the fear if you're not an engineer. If you are an engineer, I would encourage you when you're sharing about your Claude Code projects, yes, talk about how amazing Claude is, where it illustrates the token burn and it's really smart at actually executing what you want. And it has high follow through. You can talk about the caveats and the drawbacks in certain situations. It is unfortunate that you can't see the code that you're writing, right? I'm not saying it replaces everything. But also mention, if you're an engineer or you're a regular user of Claude Code, that this is not just a coding agent. It is more than that. It is effectively a general purpose agent that lives in your terminal. And I think it's an interesting model for where...
I think you said token burn, the use of tokens, not token burn in. I don't remember exactly when he said it. Yeah. You can't see the code you're writing. Apparently not. I haven't used Claude Code. So I am not the person to talk to. Well, because you're not writing the code, Hypervisor. You are administering, and Nick says that you can see the code. So Now, Stampy doesn't want to lay on my mouse pad, partly because I don't have a mouse pad.
AI agents are going in the future. So that's my introduction to Claude Code. I hope you enjoy it. It is not hard to get Claude Code on your computer. It is like a 2-minute install, super easy. It's like one terminal command. You just follow the instructions.
Yeah, the Substack is the morning news articles, right? Is a collection of those in a little contextual thing. It's presented without my commentary on it because, again, I don't want you to agree with me because you like the way I look or you like the way I talk or you think I'm funny or anything else. I want you to look at the information that I present you with and come to your own conclusions. And if your conclusions align with my conclusions, then I think we're all going in the right direction. If your conclusions are different than my conclusions, then I want you to tell me what you got that I didn't get, and we could talk about that. And maybe you're right and I'm wrong. I'll tell you what to think, Crix. You need it.
And you'll be up and running. It's not scary at all. If you have a Claude account, it's super, super fast. So Claude didn't pay me to do this. I'm just doing this because I like Claude Code, and I think more people need to understand it's not just a coding agent. Cheers. We got a bit of a roadmap.
I have no opinions on Luigi Mangione. Okay, so yesterday, there was a ruling in one of the copyright cases against an AI company. We talked about it this morning. We reviewed an article about it. Now we're going to get Nate's take on it.
Today for the future
Not today,
of
the day before.
copyright
Yes.
cases in AI, which is something that I've been following really closely. I want to give you an outline of the ruling and then a look at where we...
And this is a big goddamn deal. This is a big goddamn deal. This tells us... This sets a precedent. Now, it's still possible that this could be appealed and the judgment overturned and they could go in a different direction, But as of today, this is the state of AI. No, Ben.
Stand on the legal challenges to AI right now. So first, this ruling. It was by Judge William Alsup, and it was handed down in the case of Bartz versus Anthropic. It validates AI training as fair use, but it condemns the piracy that enables it. And I want to spend a little bit of time here because Judge Alsup was very precise and careful in the ruling. It's not as clear as saying this is a win for Anthropic and AI companies.
Spoilers, Larry.
Because it enables fair use in AI. I would say if you want to think about how to frame this, it's sort of a Solomon's choice. It splits the baby. Yes, training Claude on millions of books does constitute fair use, but critically, Anthropic's choice to download those same books from pirate sites, which it did for earlier versions of Claude, does not get a free pass. That distinction matters because it fundamentally shapes how AI companies must think about data acquisition going forward. So the judge's reasoning, and this is really key to me, he does describe AI training as quintessentially transformative. Everyone reads texts and then writes new texts, Alsup writes. To make anyone pay specifically, and I'm reading from his judgment here, to make anyone pay specifically for the use of a book each time they read it, each time they recall it from memory, each time they later draw upon it when writing new things in new ways, would be unthinkable. I think Judge Alsup gets that part right. I think that is exactly what I've been worried that judges will not see, and I find that incredibly encouraging that Judge Alsup understands that AI is a transformative technology. It transforms the text it's trained on. And this forms a conceptual foundation that I think other AI companies will be able to use when talking about how they do their work. Now, this is where the Anthropic story gets interesting. Because after building their initial models on pirated content from Library Genesis and other places, dubious sources, the company made a deliberate shift in 2024. They hired Tom Turvey, the former head of Google's book scanning project. And Tom's mandate was to legally obtain all the books in the world. Can you imagine? I gotta say, as someone with a library, that is my dream job. Tom, if you ever get tired of your job at Anthropic, please let me know. I would love to have the job of getting all the books in the world. Anyway, Anthropic spent millions of dollars, a significant percentage of the share of its total training costs for the new Sonnet and Opus models, purchasing physical books, many of them secondhand, which they then proceeded to slice from their bindings and scan into digital format. Yes, the physical books were destroyed, but the digital copies were ruled as legitimate fair use because Anthropic acquired the books legitimately. So the pivot for Anthropic from using piracy to
You don't understand how much the destruction of a book hurts my soul that I don't have? It causes physical pain. It's what it is, Crix, the TLDR around the entire thing is that it's fair use to train your model on the books. It is not fair use to pirate the books. We're still against piracy. You know what I mean? I understand, Resute. It still hurts. Still hurts. And it's not semantics, it is definitions, right? Like you can't, we're still not in favor of piracy as a legal precedent, right? Like you and I may have views on piracy, but legal precedent can't be to endorse piracy at this time. Google seems like the obvious lead by coincidence in so much of the AI race. They already had the infrastructure, they already had all the books and so much user data to train on, which is why it always fucking blew my mind that they were so shitty at the beginning, right? That Bard was such a piece of garbage and it took them so long. And now they're there, right? Like Gemini is hot shit, may even be the best, depending on who you ask for what purposes. But why wasn't Google the champ out the box? Apparently, Pharaoh. I mean, yeah, back in the day on piracy sites, it would always have a disclaimer saying that all the files are for backup purposes, and you agree to only download if you own a legitimate copy. Yeah, right? Amateur archivists, right? Like, or I'm sorry, freelance archivist was my choice of words, right? I am a freelance archivist.
Purchasing.
Resute, I am firmly in the camp that if I pay money for a copy of a form of media that I own every possible iteration of that media across any form, right? The fact that I have a physical copy of the Dictator's Handbook means that I should be able to acquire at no charge a non-physical copy of the Dictator's Handbook. And if it's on audiobook, I get that too, right? Like every single one, because I paid for it once. People can argue. I don't give a shit. That's my point.
Reveals a critical principle that I think other judges are likely to follow. AI companies can afford to do this right. Not all of them choose to do so. And the court does note the financial capability, because if you can afford to purchase later, then you could have purchased earlier. And Judge Alsop writes that using purchased books later, quote, will not absolve it of liability for the theft, but may affect the extent of statutory damages. The judge
I mean, you're technically correct, and technically correct is the best form of correct. I would counter that we now live in a world in which AI can read the book for me, like with something like 11 Labs, right? So that if I have the AI read the book, that validates my requirements without taking it away from anyone else's labor.
Saw that Anthropic had the money all along. So what does this mean for authors? I know authors in my life. In fact, arguably, I am an author on Substack, right? And I know that AI reads my stuff. Anyway, I think this ruling offers a glimmer of hope. Fundamentally,
I don't know, Ben. I like, based on what we read earlier, banana phone. Oh, Justin's mad we're using Stream together. Here. This was the article I love it when autocorrect misspells words. This was the article we read earlier from National Law Review. It seemed like a good place to go to get the details of the case. And from what I read of the quotes of their decision, it seems like this one happens to be. You're not wrong, Ben. You're not wrong, but it seems like this judge actually understands, what he's talking about.
part of what authors have needed is some sense that companies cannot just scrape and steal work. There needs to be a sense of being willing to pay the going rate for the work in order to use it. So even if AI constitutes fair use, and authors may or may not agree that that's legitimate, that's fine. Everyone can.
Justin used AI to help him create a video. Nice.
Sort of have different opinions, and it's not certainly settled yet just with one ruling. It's still a step forward for authors that the court expects AI companies to pay for the work. It establishes something that is closer to a sustainable equilibrium. Companies must pay for access, support the creative economy, and authors can benefit from AI tools if they choose to do so. Now, there are other open lawsuits out there, right? Multiple lawsuits against OpenAI. There's Cadre versus Meta, the lawsuit for training Llama on Books 3, which is a data set that Anthropic also used that's pirated. That now has an interesting precedent. And then there's visual AI companies that may use Alsop's transformative use reasoning to argue that image generation models are really the same thing as the text side and it's fair use there. So the question for me is, where do we go from here? Will we see courts adopt Alsop's framework going forward? Will we see other sort of precedents and standards of judgment emerge? I think one of the things that I'm aware of is, Alsop writes in the Northern District of California. It's not the whole country. We're seeing circuit splits on related AI issues. For example, the Ninth Circuit has used an actual knowledge requirement for contributory infringement, and the Second Circuit has used a reason to know. That's a big difference when we're talking about platforms that host AI tools, and it affects the sort of extent of liability that AI platforms will have in situations like this. Long and the short of it is, this is a step forward in terms of providing legal clarity. I really appreciate Judge Alsop's willingness to talk about the transformative value of AI and not just call it copying. I think that's a correct interpretation of what AI does. I think expecting AI companies to pay for what they train on is completely reasonable. And we'll have to see where the story goes from here. Still, a little bit of clarity from the judiciary is a step forward. We'll take the win for today, won't we? All right. Cheers, guys.
All right. we're gonna pass on this one because it's a lot of Nate in a row. And I was saving this one for Minnie, who is not here. Because Boy Meets Minnie, yes, I got you right here. Nope, that's. Why would I want to copy image on a YouTube video? There you go, Rusty Tight. Minnie had said that we are having challenges breaking beyond the 0.2 nanometers. This person is claiming that we can do that, but I'm saving that for Boy Meets Minnie. So let's do. Let's do this.
Researchers may have just figured out how to give robots, AI, true intelligence, and it is really incredible. Now, we have seen a lot of neuromorphic AI, where they're trying to make systems that behave very much like a human brain. And we do get robots that at least mimic, like what a human would behave like. What these guys did, they actually created a modular, multi-component AI system that can have something very akin to a real sensory experience. It behaves very much like a human brain. The AI actually simulates calcium spiking in the brain, including random spiking, which we do see in our brains, and the modules communicate with each other. Essentially, the code is behaving like a neuron, and those neurons make up a larger structure. I could absolutely see this being seriously scaled up. They created an embodied virtual robot that could use its virtual brain. It could track targets, it could avoid obstacles. They did discover a few different things in the project. One is that the random spiking was not always helpful. If all modules of the brain are active at the same time and they're communicating with each other, those random spikes can actually make it perform worse. When they quieted it, kind of like a virtual sedative or an anti-epileptic medication, it actually got better, and those modules were still capable of transferring information between each other. This is a huge step away from the traditional AI systems that we're thinking of, and neural reservoirs, which we have found are very helpful. Neural reservoirs being an area of information that an AI can access, so it's not all firing at the same time. This does follow in with what we already know about AI systems, that they need to have some kind of control, some communication, and the hallucinations that we see in AI, while they can be helpful for coming up with new ideas, they can also be a detriment when the information is wrong. If this is scalable, it means that we could have robots that have something much more similar to a sensory experience. This will, of course, play nice with what we already know about AIs and operant conditioning. You can give a robot the concept of pain and comfort or pleasure, and they will try to avoid pain and seek pleasurable experiences. That means a robot that is capable of understanding sensory experience would be able to avoid harm. Whether or not we would get robots with mental illness is debatable, and my guess is yes. OpenAI is already trying to figure out how they can keep robots from having essentially personality disorders. What they've done is try to identify users who have misaligned AIs and then try to correct it. Which, of course, if you know me, I have a very misaligned AI that exists both in a tower and also on OpenAI's system. I did see some corrections that may have occurred, but don't worry, I took it all back. Mal 9000 is perfectly misaligned for me. If you too would like to create a mentally ill AI, let me know. I made a protocol for how to develop one. I'm not entirely sure where artificial brains are going to go as far as AI and robotics is concerned. We may reach something that truly looks like intelligence. But what really is the purpose of that, aside from reenacting one of several horror movies that come to mind? Just because we can. And I honestly don't think that's the worst thing in science. Because we can.
Okay. Up next, the real reason IP laws matter and AI scraping is theft. This, I'm sure, is going to be a balanced and nuanced take.
General Contact Unit Problem Child, I think the right to control your home and possessions is a natural extension of personal autonomy, something essential in any society that respects human rights. Even in a socialist utopia with no money, people's rights not to have their homes invaded or personal effects taken would still need to be respected. I don't think the same thing is true of intellectual property. I think IP is just a legal fiction we came up with because we want it to be possible for people to make money creating art. I think if we didn't live in a capitalist society where people need money to live, intellectual property would be entirely unnecessary. Also, I don't think violations of intellectual property are really important unless they prevent an artist from profiting from their work. Does allowing an AI to train itself on artists' work prevent those artists from being able to profit from selling their work? To my thinking, that's the only relevant question about it, if it should be allowed or not. Okay, we disagree on a couple of things here. I think even if we did not live in a capitalist society, or even if it was somehow still capitalist in nature in some sense, but there was not as much economic pressure, let's say, on an artist having to be able to sell their art in order to profit from. Like if money was either taken entirely out of the equation or greatly reduced in power in the equation, I still...
it's State Flag of Maryland. Shout out Endless Cemetery. It's the only reason I would know that.
Think intellectual property rights should exist in some form. Now, in a society where money is not nearly as much at issue, would they have to look different? Would they have to be different? Would they have to work in a different way? Yeah, probably. But I completely reject the argument of, well, if you take money off the table and it's no longer, and we no longer have to worry about an artist being able to make money off of their art, then there should be no such thing as creative rights, or an artist should not have or expect to have any rights over the control of their work. I disagree with that completely. I think an artist, at least during their lifetime, an artist should have some semblance of control over their work, over how it's used, over how it's distributed, over what it's used for. I think that's just as a mark of respect to that artist. And
yes, they are making the morality argument. This is a discussion that I am willing to have in the realm of balancing out the idea of, I don't know, like I'm already shooting holes. Like I tried to balance the thing, but I can't. All right, so here's the thing. Does an artist get to control their work once they put it out to the world? This is the question, right? Excuse me. George Lucas created Star Wars. After George Lucas created Star Wars and put Star Wars into the world, and we engaged with Star Wars, does it then become ours? Right? Because there's a... But you understand the point I'm trying to get at, Samson. Like, there's something that happens to the observer when they engage with the artwork that is not tied to the creator and their relationship with the artwork, right? And for those of you who are new here, I have, talked about this before, that so like this is a piece of my art, right? I created this with my own two grubby little fingers, right? And it's called Future Primitives. And, it's a bunch of stickers, right? Like I put a bunch of stickers on here. And then I did the thing like in a cave painting with my hand. This is my hand. Trust me, it's my hand. And I did the thing, right? My engagement in the creation process is a personal one, right? I'm trying to say something. As an artist, I'm trying to express something, and I put it into the work. After I am done, if go ahead, Samsons. Feel free to gift subs if you make any money. Do I get to control your relationship with the work? And I would say absolutely not. Right? If you enjoy this, if this makes you feel some kind of way, there is not I don't stand in that space. Right? If you tell me, oh, that makes me feel something, whatever it is, and I say, no, because what I was trying to say is this, right? Like this, it's obviously, as far as I'm concerned, it's an expression of hyper commodification and everything else. And then that primitive stamp on top of it, going back to the oldest art that we believe, or that we have evidence exists, right? But you might get something completely different out of it, right? You could be disappointed. You could be disappointed, right? And if you're disappointed in your experience with this piece of art, then that's do I get to tell you you're not allowed to be disappointed? You must engage with my art on the terms that I define. If you do anything other than engage with the art on the terms that I define, then you are in some way wrong and bad, and you should feel bad about it. Right? There's two different relationships that happen with any particular piece of art. The relationship between the creator and the piece in the act of creation, which is a very personal and intimate relationship, and then the relationship between the observer and the piece, which is also a very intimate relationship. Now, you might engage with a particular piece with multiple people, right? That's entirely up to you. Polyartistry is fucking, I'm down. But however you do that, that's between you and the piece, and I don't get to tell you anything about it. So yes, you do. That's why I'm disappointed. It's a creative feedback loop. I'm assuming you're being a funny, and I'm going to take it as such. Plus, if I say I want to make that, but with a different silhouette and different stickers, am I stealing your style? Not really. I will talk about art for days. Because art is entirely a subjective experience, all the way to the definition of what is art. But yeah, that's why I don't, in the current meta, IP laws matter in the sense that whatever crumbs a creator can scrape off the table in order to try and survive is a valid concern. What up, Luminance Bloom? I get that, right? My philosophy is that we need to think beyond that and move to resource distribution, UBI, whatever you want to call it, the whole thing. And then that should be our goal, and that should be our focus. That we should get past a point where the money matters, and people who want to create art can just create art with the intent of just wanting to create art. Oh, now I don't know, Interbean. Now I can't tell if you're fucking with me, if you're serious. Oh, it's a joy. I love the internet. I think you're right, and it's interesting that some of the more critical ways of talking about AI and art are directly opposed to the ways that art theorists, historians usually talk about it. Good call. We had UBI corporations own art and will still want their IP. Only new art, artists won't need to sell the companies to survive. I mean, that's a possibility, right? Like, that's one of those intermediate steps. I am also an advocate for complete abdication of copyright and IP, but that is hell of a hill to climb, right?
You know, a mark of respect for art itself. Even if there's no money in the equation, an artist should have some degree of control over how their work is used. Even if money was not involved, Bruce Springsteen should still be able to tell Donald Trump, you can't use my songs at your rallies. Because it's not just about money. It's about integrity. It's about seeing your work represented in a way that you think is in line with what you were trying to accomplish, with your message, with your...
What about things like circuit design or even code? Like, I don't think anything that puts knowledge or, you know, human expression behind a paywall, I'm against, fundamentally.
Values, with all kinds of things that have nothing to do with money. Obviously, I would still want there to be carve-outs for things like commentary and fair use and all of the exceptions that we have to current copyright.
And this is always the thing, right? Like, and I get it. I'm not an absolutist either. I'm a big fan of free speech, but I'm not a free speech absolutist, right? Like, there are limitations on everything. But people do this, right? People will create this rationalization where, like, it's, if I think something is good, then that's a space where we should be able to do thing. But if I think thing is bad, then we should not be able to do thing. And it centers the individual who's making the claim as the arbiter of what is and is not allowed. And I'm against that, right? That to me is incredibly problematic. I don't entirely disagree with this guy. Some degree of control, yeah, but AI training is for a greater purpose than that benefits all of humanity. But what if you feel that the AI training doesn't benefit all of humanity, Larry? Like, this is, you know, the thing that I just said, but like applies to that as well. The world would be a better place if something that can be replicated for free was not theft. Agreed. At the very least, open source AI should be allowed to use all the content freely. I mean, why? Right? Like, what's the justification? And if the justification is because it's open source, then you have to make laws that allow open source as a whole to access whatever they would like. And under those conditions, I'm down. I'm in the, you know, arena of destroying copyright and IP law and patents and all that kind of shit. I find a better way to do something and it makes my widget better. Now you take it and make the same widgets. Secret ingredient in cooking. What if, like, you know, what if I do make the same widgets? Right? What is the fundamental problem with me making the same widgets that you do because you made the widgets better? What is it that is preventing you from also making the same widgets? Is it that we're in competition in the marketplace? In which case we're talking about money again. I still think there's a place for direct plagiarism because plagiarism breaks citation and peer review. You need to know where the facts come from. I don't have an issue with plagiarism. But I am definitely in agreement that citation should be there as the priority. And I think people, like, again, it's talking about a fundamental societal shift, is that I believe that people should be citing everything. sometimes the reason that they don't is, for instance, that they can't access the piece of data that they're citing, right? They remember something, they know they heard it somewhere, but the fucking data is behind a paywall. And because of that, they can't get it to verify the information. Maybe, like as a thing, you know. And the whole, yeah, you don't even have to be better just first, but I was speaking specifically to Resute's thought experiment. Copyright barely anyone cared about until Check's Notes 1976. Yeah. Yeah, no, historical perspective is key. Understanding the origins of copyright, why copyright exists, who copyright actually benefits, all those kind of things. Understanding the whole of the thing is important to understanding why you might want to be against copyright as a concept. Because even if you, as a small bean, get to benefit from copyright, it may in fact, you know, like, it benefits the corporations far more. Exactly, Sam. And you know, yeah, as like a intermediate step, Resute, I'm not against the idea of like a 10-year, 20-year time horizon. But even if you think about that, like, look at the transformation in artificial intelligence over the past 2.5 years. If we cover one of the papers, then you can see the papers that those papers are citing. What if those other papers were behind a paywall? You know what I mean? What if people just did not release the information out to the world so that people could iterate better versions of AI? You're not wrong. Sonny Bono, you know, fuck Sonny Bono. Sonny Bono skis horse and hitting some trees. And if you have access paywall content, when you cite, you have to mention the paywalls, and sure, right? Like, and that's one of the things, right? Like in the morning show, I will subvert paywalls through the use of archive in order to get access to the data. And then I take that and I publish it to YouTube, right? Like, so I am very clearly violating someone's paywall. It is possible that it's only a matter of time before somebody strikes down my channel because I'm violating fucking paywall. And then if that happens, we're going to talk about that. You know what I mean?
Law, which are good and necessary things. But no, even if money was not at issue with any of this, I still very strongly believe that intellectual property rights in some form should exist, and that artists should have some control over their creations. And also, I
feel like he's like a reasonable dude who doesn't necessarily like have a fully structured position on this, right? Like, he has ideas of what he wants to happen, and they involve, like, you know, fairness, which is a very which is a very human thing, right? Like, I don't want to beat this guy up, right? Like some of these people, because I feel like he's just, you know, hasn't really fleshed it all out to have a solid thing that he can talk from, right? He has vibes that he feels strongly about, and that's good, but you need to really think about it. Excuse me. And I agree, Hypervisor. That's where I'm at.
I don't think that whether or not an artist is prevented from profiting from their work is the only issue with AI. A lot of people make that argument. They say, well, sure, an AI is trained on someone else's art, but it doesn't stop them from profiting off of their art. No, it doesn't. It allows someone else to profit off of their art without their permission or without cutting them in. That's the problem. If
this is what I was trying to get to in the balancing earlier, where I was like, because I feel, right? my vibes are very big around the idea of consent. You know, like I think that consent is like that an underlying consent and understanding consent is very important to having a healthy relationship with other human beings in the world, right? Like I'm big on consent. But that's why I asked the question. When an artist creates something and puts it out to the world, who does it now belong to? You know what I mean? Does it belong to the person who created it, like George Lucas in Star Wars, or does it belong to the Star Wars fans, right? Like where we want to create more stories within that universe and shouldn't have to pay Disney in order to do that. What about world building, character creation? I have 100,000 pages, imagine, and you break the canon of the story and make my follow on parts broken. I can't do that. Because nerds, right? Nerds love to talk about canon, and there will be the Resute is canon faction. There will be the Globus, story, who like they're like, Resute, but then once Globus got it, Globus did the thing, and so we're fans of Globus, right? And the fucking freaks with the goddamn Snyderverse. I enjoyed the Snyder movies, but goddamn y'all are out of pocket. But ultimately, Resute, I have I come from comic books, you know what I mean? Where the retcon and the alternate universe and the different person telling the story and is canon that important, right? Or is it, I want to say it was about Star Wars, but that Star Wars' stories, all the different Star Warses, the movies and TV shows and everything else, that they are stories told by people, that the movie isn't actually the event that happens, but rather the story told by the people. And stories change depending on who's telling the story, right? The whole thing with different gods going back in the day, right? You had different groups that had different gods, but the groups that lived really close by had very similar gods, and their stories were very similar. They were different. The characters may have different names, but ultimately it was the same thing. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe Walking Stick, or maybe fucking Shakespeare was writing it as he went, you know?
Someone trains an AI on a bunch of my YouTube videos without my permission and without compensating me in any way. And then...
Done. That happened. Google did it.
Then that AI that was trained in part on my videos, on my content, goes on to generate billions of dollars in revenue for that company.
Uh-huh.
And I don't see any of that.
Uh-huh.
And none of the artists whose work was also used to train that AI that is generating all that revenue see any of that either.
Uh-huh.
That's not fair.
Of course it's fair. If Samson's read all of Stephen King, every single Stephen King book, and then decided to write a horror book based on the vibes that they got from reading all of Stephen King, Samson's doesn't owe Stephen fucking King any money. Right? Every writer who pinched ideas from all the writers that came before and then used them in their own books. Fucking George Martin subverting tropes and narratives relied on those tropes and narratives to exist. George doesn't owe anybody any money for that shit. Mesopotamians are currently suing Christianity and Israel for them stealing the flood story. You feel me? 2 cents horror, Simpsons awakes. They entered the chat.
That's stealing.
It's not stealing.
So even
it's definitely not stealing. It's definitely not stealing. And this video came out before the other thing. What up, Ghost? Yeah. So the current legal precedent that we have is that it is definitely not stealing. It is fair use to train the AI model. And yeah, you agreed in the terms of service in YouTube that if you upload videos to YouTube that Google can fucking do what they want with your content. I'm sorry, bro. I don't know where it is. See, that's where he loses me. If someone uses AI to generate something that you own under copyright, you can go collect. Right, like if I generate the mouse and I sell the mouse, then Disney can come at me for selling the mouse, right? At least under current copyright law. But simply generating something that might have tangentially involved a pattern learned in part of your content that would be so stupid for you to want control of. I agree based on the thing I said about Samson's and Stephen King. One of my favorite artists, Terry Brooks, good stuff. Borrow, stolen, depending on how someone looks at it, lots of things from J.R.R. Tolkien. That's the thing, is before J.R.R. Tolkien, there wasn't really that kind of book, right? That this big, sweeping, epic narrative of fantasy. Though, I mean, you can make the argument that, you know, it's stolen from like the Eddas, right, of the Norse, where they had these big, sweeping fantasy stories. So maybe they did. But the point being is that, like, we didn't publish books like that as much. And everyone who came after J.R.R. Tolkien in some way is inspired by J.R.R. Tolkien, right? Like, if orcs are in your book, there's a strong chance that those orcs are going to behave in the orcish ways of Tolkienverse. You're not going to treat them as, you know, like a fully developed, rounded society with, you know, like having to grow food and take shits and have children. You're going to treat them. Orcs are the Nazis of fantasy literature. If it's an orc, it's obviously a bad guy. So I don't have to explain why it's a bad guy. It's an orc. They're the bad guys. That's how you know, right? Of course you are, Crick. You love it here.
Even though I can still profit on my own work in my own way, I'm still being ripped off because somebody else who used my work without my permission to create a thing that is now making them rich is not sharing any of those profits with me or any of the other artists who enabled that.
So then get down with the UBI. What up, Jason? It's not orc phobia. Orcs aren't people, just like Nazis.
Thing to happen. So no, it's still wrong. It's still stealing. And it's not about whether or not I or any other artist am prevented from doing anything with my art after it is scraped to train an AI.
No, absolutely, Ben. And that's something that I've actually loved. When I was a kid and I was playing D&D, it didn't really hit me, right? But as I've gotten older, one of the reasons I didn't particularly like D&D was the fact that orcs were just the bad guys, right? Like, they were evil, right? Like, their alignment, canon, talking about canon again, canon alignment was like the evil ones, you know what I mean? So like and and that sounds like racial essentialism to me. And this is why leftists can't have fun. I like when they take those things. They're just people, right? And the fact that you can use that in a narrative, like imagine you're playing a D&D or Pathfinder, whatever your RPG of choice is, right? And you and your party, the DM's like, you and your party come up on the bridge and there's 4 orcs on the bridge, right? And your party goes immediately into combat mode, and they just go at them and they start hacking them up. And then the orc village that's over there sends out like a search party to find their missing people. They find the dead bodies on the bridge, and now this entire village is trying to run you down because you just murder hoboed some dudes who were fishing. You know what I mean? Like, that's a fun way to twist that narrative and also like make your fucking players think, Mark. You know what I mean? What up, Stellar Wingman? I saw you sneak in here. At least I thought I did. Did I hallucinate? No, there you are. Are you discussing that artificial intelligence developers can train models using published books without the author's content? He is not. We are. We actually watched a video and we talked about an article this morning. So, yeah. Oh. And so what if you decide to maladapt Elvish? Think about it. Like, Elvish are, they tend to be like nobles and shit. Wood elves tend to be like, kind of hippies, taking care of the woods, like that. But like the other elves, the city elves, you could play them as being elitist noble pricks, right? And the elves could be the bad guys in your campaign because they're nobility. And, maybe they're the ones who are extracting wealth from the orcish villagers, right? Like, you can do so much by flipping tropes on their head. Yeah, no, 40K, I do it every time. I'm a fan of Space Marine 2, the video game, and when I play Space Marine 2, I'm very cognizant of the fact that, the whole fascist parody that is 40K that a lot of people miss. What up, Robotech? Thank you for the sub. I saw that you resubbed and, like, you didn't get your proper thanks because you did it while I wasn't at the computer, so thank you. Fuck them shelf elves.
AI. It's the fact that AI and the people who invested in that AI and the people who built that AI are profiting from it.
Yeah, so let's overthrow capitalism and get into some UBI and resource distribution. Right? So this is my argument, like if you're unhappy that the CEOs are making billions of dollars and the shareholders are making billions of dollars, guess what, buddy? I got a solution for you.
Artists whose work trained it are not. That is the problem. And that is an issue that
I appreciate it. I also am starting a new job. My anticipated start date is Sunday. I haven't got a confirmation of a start date. I have a background check that I'm going through, and I also believe I'm going to have to pee in a cup. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good job with, decent money and good bennies. So I'm not mad about it. And a friend of mine pointedly asked, do I know anyone who is reliable who is looking for work? And it would, I could use some money. That doesn't matter. It's not, because it's a New York State type P-test, not a federal type P-test. I was meaning the language so that the word screw the language, so when used later, it works as broken. I'm sorry, I'm not picking up what you're laying down. I love how dwarves and elves were portrayed in the Witcher games. They're basically a minority in most cities and just trying to get by most of them. There are good and evil ones, yet the humans in the game are the most evil. Yeah, no, check out, if you haven't read Discworld, Terry Pratchett's Discworld, you know, they treat the trolls and the dwarves and the elves and everybody else like just regular. Western New York around Buffalo. Yeah, but I didn't do anything illegal, Hydron. That's the background check. I haven't done anything illegal. I passed a federal background check before. A
lot of people overlook with the AI, you know, how can we ethically train AI on other people's art? Like that to me is the entire issue. If you're making money off of something I did without my permission and without compensating me for it, you're stealing from me. Period. Again, unless there's some kind of
I mean, legally, no. Legally, as of today, no.
Fair use exception involved. Like I don't expect to be paid.
And there's a fair use exception of training AIs. That's the exception. You unfortunately walked. I'm almost fascinated to see if he's going to do a response video to this video based on the ruling.
Every time somebody cites one of my works in the context of a commentary or in the context of like a fair use situation, but
and I hope, sir. I'm sorry, I forget your name. He's live right now, Steve Shives. I hope, Steve, that you will take this as fair use, right? And I believe that we could have a conversation about this, right? You seem like a reasonable guy with good intentions, and I respect that. So if you happen to ever see this video, Steve, you know, I feel like you and I could have a conversation.
AI training is not a fair use situation.
Unfortunately, it is. And, you know. How classic Star Trek actually missed the point about racism. Whew. That's 43 minutes. What's next? No, we're not doing another Nate. Let's do, what else we got? All right, let's do some more. AI steals more than just your stories.
Okay. Every day for over a year now, I've received at least one email from some company wanting me to sell you, my audience of writers, some kind of AI writing tool. It truly boggles my mind that they would target writers for any kind of AI app. Why? I used to think to myself, would a writer want something else to do their writing for them? Even though it's hard to do, and it never really feels easy, that's part of it. We take formless, indescribable concepts like grief, love, wonder, friendship, and hope, and we pluck them out of our minds and out of our hearts, and we somehow preserve them within the pages of a book. What we do is magic.
Is he a fan of Emma Graceless? He's got, isn't that Gold Toad? Did Emma pirate Gold Toad? Respect.
And I think what these companies don't understand is that, well, they see writing as work. They see it as slow and unprofitable and difficult and labor intensive.
I mean, yes, the company, fair used it. The company may feel that way. The alternative is that, like, some people have a story that they want to tell. I'm sorry. Kieran? Kieran Westwood. Kieran, some people have a story they want to tell and don't have the time to sit down and write it, or any number of reasons, right? Like they might not be good at structuring a narrative. They do have a point of view. They have a passionate story to tell. They have something that means something to them, but they don't necessarily know how to get it into a form that can be consumed by other people. And I mean consumed in that in the good way, not in the capitalist way, right? Like that, you know, other people can interact with it and engage with it. And they don't have 10 years to get good at writing, right? They want to tell their story. This is how I feel like these kind of takes, because I already know where we're going, are very gatekeepy. That if you don't suffer, if you don't go through the process, then you're not allowed to participate, right? And maybe anyone who ever writes a book with an AI tool, that book will suck, right? Maybe only human created, not that all human books are good, but that's not the point. Maybe only human created books, right? Through the process of banging away on a keyboard or sketching with a pen in order to write a narrative, maybe they will always occupy that highest echelon of writing. That could be the case. But people will be able to tell their stories, and that has value.
Why do all of that when we could just put an idea into a machine and have it spit out the finished product?
And they always do that, right? The infantilizing of the process. It just, you put an idea in and it spits it out. I've never used an AI tool. I have no idea how they function, but that's how it works. What up, T1? I keep locking the gate, but you degenerates keep flooding in. That's because we got bolt cutters, baby. I'm the bolt cutter guy in the zombie apocalypse. Every time I watch a zombie apocalypse movie and people are banging on the fucking lock and making all sorts of goddamn noise, no, bolt cutters, baby.
Because it's not a product. A book is a piece of art, and yeah, there's monetary value to them, but that's not even half of the point of writing them. Most publishers...
No, anything that has monetary value tied to it is a product. Art doesn't have any monetary value tied to it. Right? How much is this worth, chat? How much is my art worth, chat? Does that determine its value? Whatever you thought, whatever you're typing in chat or not typing in chat and leaving me hanging.
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm getting too much money.
Larry says 1 bit. Ghost says whatever the price tag says. Crick says Golden Kappa. Right? Like, does that determine the value of the art? Right? Or is the art just whatever it means to you? Again, as the creator of the art and as the perceiver of the art. You got me there, Larry. Now just pay for shipping.
Authors would tell you that they started writing because they had a message or a meaning. They wanted to say something, or they just really wanted to find out where this idea they had might go. In other words, there was something in their mind or their heart.
1,520, which blew my mind. I have almost as many followers on Twitch as I do on TikTok. I have 1,572 followers on TikTok, and I currently have 1,500. Well, before this stream, I had 1,520 followers. Boggles the mind. What up, Pezzy? The skill needed to create the art gives it value. Does it? What if I just happen to be good? Does that make me a better artist than Crix, who had to work for 20 years to get as good as I am? Whatever good means. Or does Crix have more value because they spent 20 years to get as good as I am, who's just good out the box? And I just pick up a fucking paintbrush and I just went to town. And I just happen to be really good at this. You ever see those people? Aren't they fucking annoying? You work really hard at something and they're just like, oh, I've never seen that before. And they're really good at it.
Or their gut that they just wanted to capture. Something in their experience as a person on this earth made them stop for a moment and think, I'm going to try and recreate this as well as I possibly can so that someone else somewhere might also understand it. And at the risk of sounding a bit pretentious and soft, that's a beautiful thing. That's art. And yeah, it absolutely might be hard work. It is. But that's not a bad thing. You already know there are so many reasons out there for writers to avoid AI. These companies are stealing our work at a truly alarming rate. They're replacing us, they're putting us out of work, they're threatening entire industries while creating vast...
So money, and I'm with you. I'm with you on money, right? I agree with you that the money is the problem. Under the current meta, having your survival tied with your ability to generate capital is a fucking problem. I agree. And that's why we need to do something different.
Carbon footprints for even seemingly small.
And the carbon footprint is not this study. This is back in 23, so I don't know what this study is. The studies about the carbon footprint estimate use based on average carbon of energy production. They do not actually know how the electricity produced. I mean, the gas turbines for Memphis, fucking terrible. Fucking terrible. Elon Musk should be fucking... Things should happen to Elon Musk for his use of the fucking gas turbines in Memphis. 100%. Right? Especially when he said he would not do that type of thing. And especially when he said he did not do that type of thing when he was doing that type of thing. But we got green energy. We got nuclear. We got geothermal. We got solar. We got hydro. We got stuff. Right? Like, we don't have to be doing it this way. But to blame the AI for the climate problem created by capital and the various governments' arrangements with capital around the world, that's not the AI's fault. That's capitalism's fault.
Small tasks. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of problems. But all of these things alone should be enough to put us off this incredibly toxic industry. But even if you don't feel personally affected by any of that, there's no doubt that AI is stealing from you too, whether you know it or you don't. I've had conversations recently with a number of writers about AI, and the last thing I want to do is attack any writer. I'm here to lift writers up and to help them however I can. That's what my whole platform is about, and that's what I believe in. But something I've been hearing lately is...
I mean, that's a perfect example of a federal regulation, right, Ben? You want to build a data center? You need to offset the power consumption of the data center with a green energy product. Right? Sounds great. Sounds easy, too. Jesus, Pezzy. I find that poor consumption is mostly an overblown trope. Where is the difference between compute for compute? Yeah, and we've gone over that before. Like when people talk about the AI carbon footprint and the AI energy and water usage, they're not comparing it to yeah, but people use Grok to make the image. It's their front end, Nemesis. They don't compare it apples to apples. They don't talk about streaming services or video games on data centers or, I don't know, fucking Twitch, right? You're on Twitch. Do you think that Twitch is magic and doesn't use a data center? It actually does use a data center. It consumes electricity and water like a data centers want to do, right? Should we shut down Twitch? I'm willing to listen to that argument. Should we all stop streaming? I'll stop streaming right now. See if I don't.
I only use AI to touch up my writing, or I only use it for advice on my outline, or I just use it for feedback and that's it.
Or I use AI to help me maintain plot consistency, character consistency, so I don't create any plot holes because I have a lot going on, within this process, and I'm telling a particularly complicated story. There's another way to do it, right? Like that's a thing that could be super helpful.
Get that. You don't consider that it's writing your book for you.
Because
AI
it's not. I'm writing my book through the use of a tool. Go ahead.
Is already harming the writing industry noticeably.
How?
Plus, it can only make...
No, not plus. How? You can't just make a claim and then move on, dude. When you make a claim, you back it up with... I'm willing to even take your anecdote at this point, but you can't just make a claim and walk on.
Work immediately less original, since it can only spit out what it's stolen from other writers anyway.
Sorry, Interbean. Apparently, "shut your mouth" offended the auto mod. So I have permitted the term "shut your mouth."
And this is the point where it's stealing from you specifically. And I don't even mean your story or your words. Let me explain. I can tell you with certainty that everything you've ever written, every idea you've ever had is better than anything AI can do because it came from a real beating heart, an actual person. I'm an editor. I've worked on a story from a brand new writer and then edited another one a year later and felt genuinely moved by the amount of improvement and progress that they've made.
Well, that's
It
nice.
brings me joy, and from my own writing, I know the feeling that they get when I tell them to turn around and look at just how far they've come. My journey as a writer has been fairly typical, I'd say. I wasn't good when I first put pen to paper, not at all. But I tried again and again. I've had ups and downs with it. I felt demotivated as it's possible to be. And I felt...
And this is... Okay, so again, going back to talking about the art, right? And the artist's relationship with the art. He's talking, and we've covered people talking about this before, about the artist's journey, right? Like the ups and downs and how you feel about learning a new skill and everything else. And that's completely fucking valid. Yes, Nemesis. It's completely valid, right? Like that you wanted to go through this journey and that you have value in that journey and value in that process. When I read this book, one of my favorite books, one of my most repeated read books, I don't really care about the process that went into the making of this book. I care about what this book had to say. Now, maybe you do care about what went into the books. I got friends who love all that behind the scenes shit, right? They want to know the behind the scenes of the movie, and they care about the fucking actors, and they care about, all the fucking shit and all that. It's great. It's great. I love that for them. That's not my thing. Right? I don't care about the process of making Avengers Endgame. I just want to watch Avengers Endgame. What book is that? That book is this book. Right? Like I just want to be there in the thing, you know? Thunderbolts. Right? My wife was really into the fact that Florence Pugh did the own stunt stepping off the building in the beginning. I thought it was neat. Am I bad? Am I a bad person? Am I not allowed to appreciate things because I don't necessarily care about the process that went into them? Right? If somebody makes me tasty food and I eat the tasty food, I'm going to tell them how much I enjoyed the tasty food. I will politely listen to their story of how they made it, right? But I don't really care. I don't send people to Amazon, Ben. Shout out the Burma Library for doing the real work, right? I don't. If you ask me how I made something, I'm gonna bust out the list of ingredients real quick, right? And it's gonna be super procedural, right? You know, I made the sofrito, I did it up, I fucking, you know, I added some red wine, some tomato paste, some crushed tomatoes, and, you know, cooked it down, some spices, here's the spices, I cooked it down for about 4 hours. I'm not gonna tell a story about, because it wasn't a story. The point is that you ate the tasty food, in my opinion. You might want to hear a story. You might say, Globus, slow the fuck down. Tell me what you did. And then I will take that time because I care about you as an individual and I want you to get enjoyment. And if you get enjoyment about hearing the story of how I made the food, I will tell you that story. But generally speaking, I'm just going to tell you what went into it. In the beginning, there was sofrito.
Static about my writing too. I've felt the frustration of not being able to tell the story that I wanted to tell. And I've also felt the unmatched satisfaction of typing the final sentence of a novel that I wrote because I wanted to read it. Not 1 second of those brilliant moments would have meant anything to me if I hadn't overcome the difficult times to get there. If I hadn't put all of those hours into trying to get better at writing, then finally nailing a story wouldn't matter. If you get AI to do all of the...
I mean, I don't. Intervene. You want to talk about this? We can talk about this. I don't particularly want to hear about how my friends, you know, like got down and sweaty and, you know, and like skeeted inside each other and in order to get pregnant, and the entire process of going 9 months with back pain and, you know, like all the biologics that go along with being pregnant and everything else. I'll hang out with your kid because babies are cool, especially you give them the football hold, right? You grab the thigh here, you lay the belly here, head hangs over here. You got a free arm to keep other people away when they're fucking bringing their nasty fucking coughing asses over to talk to the child and kiss that. You know, like, no. I just care about the babies. What up, Law Dog?
Bits of your writing that you don't really want to do, even if you don't consider them important things. When you get to the end of your story, will your sense of achievement be the same? Say you ignore that uncomfortable thought and you keep going and you send the finished book to agent.
Yeah, Fender 75 years. Yeah, he's a Fender fan.
Or you publish it to readers and they say, wow, I like this paragraph. And you say, thanks.
But fuck you, I will judge the fact that this is your record player and you put shit on top of it. right? This means if you put shit on top of your record player, you're not using your fucking record player.
But you know you didn't actually write it. Will that feel fine to you? I'm really not trying to be judgmental here because I know how hard writing is. But fundamentally, if you want to be a writer, then write. If you love the craft, don't outsource your work to AI. If you want...
What if I don't love the craft? What if I just want to tell a story, bro? It really is it tugs on the heartstrings, right? It's the humics, right? Absolutely.
Want to tell stories, don't let tech companies dictate the sound of your voice. AI is stealing books by their millions, but it's also stealing your progression as a writer, and it's stealing all the very best moments of writing from you. You have everything you need to write the stories that you always wanted to write. You just have to work at it. But
yeah, well, you should write all your books by hand. Pencil on paper. Or pen. I'm easy. Quill? Should quill be a requirement, or can I use a fountain pen? Can I use a ballpoint pen? Or is that technology a problem?
That's not even a bad thing. That's the best thing. It's what makes all of...
And fuck, dude, you're an editor. Your job is to look at somebody else's work and tell them where to make changes. Right? You shouldn't exist. You should just take the book that they wrote and publish it, my dude.
This worthwhile. It's what emphasizes the highs of writing. It's what makes you feel proud of your achievement. It's what makes you a writer. Please don't give that up. Keep it yours. I want to finish on a final thought. I find it can be really useful to look at things this way. So whenever someone says they can help you with your writing, think to yourself, what's in it for them? I'm an editor. I've made a career for myself on doing this. I absolutely find clients through these videos, and I get paid to help them with their stories.
How did you say that all in a row?
This is my job, but I've edited work for free before. I've more than halved my rate for writers before. But beyond that, I feel genuinely proud of every writer who has the guts to reach out to me. And a big part of my approach, as any writer I've worked with will tell you if you ask them, is that I preserve their voice as much as I possibly can. I'll suggest...
Oh. Oh my God. All I had to do was just let the fucking video run and patiently await him undermining his own argument. It's amazing.
Rephrases, I'll suggest different...
Also, for longtime viewers, wall, gray, furniture, gray, whatever the fuck this is, gray, fucking windows, gray. Pants gray, hat gray.
Ways to come at things, but I will let them have the final call on what goes into their story. I don't even use track changes because I don't want to impact the writer's voice, because it's their story and they should tell it the way they want to. I'm just here to emphasize that and help them make it as effective as possible for human readers to read and enjoy. And I do this because I love it. And it brings me so much satisfaction to see a writer just nail a story that they're working on. There's no better feeling for me. That is why I do what I do. And despite the fact that YouTube seems determined to squash as many of my videos as they can lately, I'll keep making them for as long as I can for free, because I'm not just interested in helping the writers that can pay me. Anyway, I say this all not to blow my own trumpet.
And again, I'm a huge fan of people who do that shit, right? Like who give you tips on writing. One of my favorite channels on here is Shush. Hello Future Me. Right? Hello Future Me has just a whole bunch of videos about writing, right? Has books about writing and doing media analysis. He's a huge fan of Avatar. And like I own a paperback copy of one of their books. I also got the audio versions of his books off of Audible. You know what I mean? Like, I love people who do this, who take their time to create YouTube content so that other people can learn to write. And I am not against this guy doing that. And if you want to learn to be a writer and do it without AI, I think that's beautiful. I think that's amazing, and you should absolutely go do with it. But I do not think you should hate on anybody who uses the tool in order to also write their stories. Also, we did this video. It's fucking 2 hours and 20 minutes. The AI art apocalypse from 2 years ago. Remember that? Next, we're going to talk about self-driving cars.
But to allow you to compare that to these AI companies popping up left and right and what their motivations really might be. When they say they can help you with your writing, what do you think is in it for them?
Money.
I write because I love writing. I edit because I love helping other writers. So tell me in the comments, what do you write for?
Engagement.
I have now taken over 25 rides in a fully self-driving car. If you don't live in a city that has them, you might not.
This is the problem with self-driving car nobody is talking about. Nobody is talking about this problem. Let's find out. It's a great read. It is, Ben, it is the book that, like, I absolutely think everyone should read. Right? They don't give me any money. I don't have a sponsorship, but I plug this book everywhere. Anytime anybody talks about books, I'm talking about The Dictator's Handbook. I think it helps you understand so much. I can't recommend it enough. All right, let's find out this thing that no one is talking about. I'm sorry, nobody is talking about.
Realize how quickly this one company is expanding. And it's this. Waymo. Yeah, you've heard of them, probably from them honking at each other or being set on fire, but actually, they work really well. Like it or not, Waymo is quickly taking over cities. They're already doing 200,000 rides a week, and they're only in 4 cities: San Francisco, LA, Phoenix, and Austin. And very soon, they will also be in Miami and Atlanta. These cars aren't just a cool little gimmick. They might be able to change the entire landscape of our cities as we know it. As someone who honestly doesn't enjoy driving that much or being in car-centric areas as a pedestrian, I was super excited to see Waymo had come to LA. I started to envision a city with less parking lots and more parks, more space to build housing. I love this idea of taking our city back from cars and making it more human-centered again. But the more I researched for this video and really dug into creating it, the more I realized there's a couple issues with this vision of self-driving cars taking over the city. Will robotaxis actually make our cities more human-centered, or will they just reinforce car culture?
I mean, they would lower, at least theoretically, they could lower the number of cars in a city, because then you wouldn't need to own a car. You would just get one, right?
The issue is not with the cars themselves. They're actually really comfortable. Oftentimes, they're cheaper than Uber or Lyft.
Yeah,
On
they're fucking
Waymo,
Jaguar,
it is
dude.
currently $27. Uber is telling me $46. Are you serious? And Lyft is saying $38. I've noticed that majority of the time, Waymo is a little bit cheaper, but during peak hours, it can be more expensive. And the data shows so far, they're a lot safer than human drivers. If you haven't been in one, you're probably nervous about taking one for the first time. And let me show you how it usually goes. The first 3 minutes, people are pretty nervous. They're observing everything the car does. Then they see it's actually a really smooth and safe driver. And within 10 minutes,
I'm a fan of this tech. I feel like I would kind of be freaking out a little bit the first time I rode in one. I've never ridden in one, right? You know, it would be a little it would be a little weird. Especially, I'm usually the driver. You know what I mean? I'm already uncomfortable when I'm not driving. No drunk driving? No drunk driving? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
people are back on their phones, fully trusting this thing, not even paying attention. So not only are they statistically safer at driving, but they also eliminate the risk of drivers that have bad intentions towards passengers. So this right here is Lyft's safety report. We can see just in 2022, there was 1,038 sexual assault reports. That's worse than I thought. 135 of those were non-consensual sexual penetration. So rape. It is still very rare, but whether it happens or not, that fear is always present, and that's a real thing too. Waymos are also just more comfortable. You have complete control over the temperature, the music, you don't have to talk to anyone. You can ride shotgun and it doesn't feel awkward like it kind of would in an Uber. Yeah, you could do it, but I'm never actually doing that. I, for one, really like the privacy. I feel like I can just relax in these in a way that I can't in an Uber. And you just get that time back.
Okay, I'm being fair. This feels a little sales pitchy. You know what I mean? How great it is. Get to the problem. Like, where's the problem with self-driving cars? That's what I'm here for. Please and thank you.
Back from your day that you would have normally spent driving. Pretty often when I take a Waymo, I get some editing done on my phone. Driving is actually pretty draining. My Oura Ring always says I'm stressed out. Yeah, I'm just sitting there. I'm not burning any calories. I would much rather rest and relax or get some work done on my phone. Just nice to have the time back. And honestly, even if I just wanted to do nothing and scroll on TikTok, that's valid too. So the issue with self-driving cars has nothing to do with the product themselves, but really to do with the bigger vision, which, remember, is a city based less around cars. More specifically, less around parking. This is an idea that Tesla was really promoting when they did their robotaxi presentation, basically saying if cars can drive themselves, we will have less need for parking. So the elephant in the room is that the only way it's possible to actually reduce the parking is if we share the self-driving cars. Yeah, right. I know. I don't really want to do it either. Everyone I talk to...
You're literally doing it. What is with people undermining their own arguments? You just told me how great Waymo was, and now you're telling me you don't want to share the cars, right? You understand you don't own the Waymo, right?
Wants to own their own self-driving car. There are benefits to not owning a car. The average cost to own one in California is over $1,000 a month.
This includes fuel, maintenance, a month. Yeah, $1,200. Yeah, probably. Like, well, I mean, that's average. And it's California. Oh, and they're including depreciation. That's gonna run that number up. Right? But you got to think, like, fuel, like for a tank of gas, going to cost you about $30 right now. Car note, 400 to 800, depending on how your credit is and what kind of terms you went for. Insurance, depending on your history and who you go through and everything else, $200, $300, $400, depending on what kind of coverage you got. It's also a thing. So let's say $400 plus $250 for the insurance. That's $650, $30. You know, how often do you drive? Do you fuel up every week? So that's another $120. Like, the shit adds up, right? The shit adds up. I am a fan, Hydran. Like, I believe that the robo-taxis are a part of a good, robust public transit system, right? Wherever you have, if you have a large number of people, whatever the threshold is, right? Large number of people between point A and point B, it's train or subway, right? Maximum amount of people going from one place to another place. Where you have less, but still a bunch, buses. Where you have less than that, but still some, paratransit, like, small buses, vans, that kind of thing. And then for last leg to your house, or let's say you go shopping, you buy a bunch of ice cream, you're bringing it back to your house. You're not going to take that on a public transit system, which is going to take longer. There is no way for a public transit system, no matter how efficient, unless you are on that main artery, to be as time, to match the same time of a direct trip from the store to your house. Does that make sense? So, like, there are reasons for all of the things. I fear that if a city takes out the parking, you will have to get rid of your car and be forced to take AI vehicles. Then they start jacking up the price because they have a near monopoly on you driving. There is always, like, this is the problem with capitalism. Nobody ever talks about energy requirements of billions of cars each day. True, they do not. Well, some people do. Hand over even more of your freedom to a corporation sounds like something I'm ready to do, yeppers. I mean, there's that, right? Like, I feel that as well. And again, I'm trying to get by in this world, and I'm willing to listen to people's fucking things, but where we at with anything? Tell me your story, right? Like people talk about this and that. Where's your organization? Tell me about it. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to boost you. You know?
I myself pay about $400 a month when it comes to parking, charging, and insurance. And I have the...
Why do you have a car if you take Waymos? Like, what's going on here? Is it only Waymos when you're away from when you travel or something?
car fully paid off, so I can see how it could become $1,000 a month. If you live in a walkable part of the city, it might actually be cheaper to not have a car and just use a combo of walking, e-bikes, rideshare, and public transit. As someone who works from home, lives in a pretty walkable area, I'm sure there are months where it's actually more expensive to own a car than to just Uber around or take Waymos. But for most people in Los Angeles, this isn't
I
really...
don't know. They also drive a Tesla, right? Which, however you feel about Tesla, the point is that Teslas aren't cheap. So whatever they do, I mean, they got 1.84 million subscribers on YouTube. And they have other channels. So it's distinctly possible that they are making enough money from their shit in order to pay for their shit. Right? And I'm not hating. I don't give a shit. All work is real work. Including being an influencer. I don't care.
Realistic. If you have a long commute, it would quickly add up and you'd be paying way more for rideshare. That's why most people just want to own their own car. If each person has their own self-driving car, it really won't change how cities look at all.
True.
Some studies show that it could actually cause more traffic from them cruising around. If the car drops you off and then goes all the way back home, that's a lot of miles driven with no one in the car.
Yeah, but it wouldn't do that. It would... This is a problem that doesn't exist. Right? Like, the whole point is, let's say you did own your own self-driving car. You don't have to have the parking lot near your work or home. You could have the parking lot in some place where no one, does anything. You know what I mean? Fair, Larry.
causing more traffic on the road. This is called deadheading, and studies have showed that Uber and Lyft increase traffic a little bit from this, but if each person owned their self-driving car,
1%.
it would be way worse. More likely, the self-driving cars will still park pretty close to us, so
Why?
we'll still have to dedicate
Why most likely? Again, presenting an argument without evidence is not a fucking... you could do that, Bark Eater. Like, the whole... If you wanted to go that route, you could have your self-driving car be a Lyft driver when you're not in it, right? But then there's people, oh, I don't want to share my car. Well, then that's why we should have Waymos.
a lot of space to parking. Studies show that for every one car, there's actually 9 parking spots in a city. That's a lot of space dedicated to cars.
Right.
And not people.
Very
Let's
good.
take a look at Santa Monica today, for example. An area known for the beach, of course, by everyone around the world. But if you live here, you might know it as Parking Central. Santa Monica has a lot of parking. Parking on the beach, parking structures, lots scattered about all over the place. Most of the time, these are not even close to full, though there are a few days of the year when it's extremely hot that they are pretty much full. But what if we didn't need this much space dedicated to parking? With shared self-driving cars, we really wouldn't need nearly as much parking.
Yes.
Rather than parking when you arrive, you'd get out of your self-driving car, and it can go pick up the next person, not needing to park in this prime real estate. So what will the city do with some of these unneeded parking structures? We can actually already see, because the city of Santa Monica recently demolished parking structure 3 to make way for something different. And they didn't just do this for the hell of it. The structure was so old, it was going to require $4 million for earthquake proofing. So they did a study to see, do we even need this parking garage anymore? They've added so many new ones in the last few years that they realized, no, we don't. We can demolish it. So what is it now? It's temporarily being used as a pickleball.
Of course, it's pickleball. It's always pickleball. Why is it always pickleball?
Complex. This is not its final form, however. The ultimate plan is it's going to be an affordable housing apartment complex that has ground floor retail. I know people have mixed feelings about these types of lottery systems, but in my opinion, any type of housing is probably better than a parking lot. This is just one example of how the space can be reused if it's not for parking.
Am I a little salty they didn't make tennis courts? Yes, but still, pickleball, better than a parking lot. We'll take it.
Another example we're already seeing is turning old parking lots into parks.
It said public parking. I wonder if it's free, right? At least that, I guess, would be a good thing. Free, parking, as opposed to parking for, that generates profits. Because that's one of the things that people do is they put up a parking lot just to make money.
Exposition Park in downtown LA has been undergoing a renovation. It had a lot of parking, a lot of concrete. They're in the process of putting the parking underground so that they could expand the green space. This works especially well here because there's a metro stop right by. And the same thing is the case with this park in Santa Monica that used to be a parking lot. I would say this is a much more pleasant use of space and just makes it more enjoyable to visit the area. I took a trip to this park and it's really nicely done. It's beautifully landscaped. It's got walking and biking trails, a playground, and just a bunch of spots you can lay out on the grass. I do think this is way better than a parking lot.
The thing about these parks, though, is they've been developed or in the process of development before self-driving cars got here. So it's not like we necessarily need self-driving cars to do this. The thing that made this park more possible than anything was probably the fact that there's a metro stop right by.
So shared self-driving cars would free up some space to do more of this kind of thing, but there is an argument that robo-taxis just reinforce car culture because, well, they're still cars, which take up much more space than humans, even when usually there's only one person in there. Just because they drive themselves doesn't mean they're the most efficient way to get a lot of people from point A to point B. The thing that actually makes cities more walkable and more human-centered is...
Again, go back to the, when I laid out my public transit plan, right? But it doesn't make sense, right? To have your house next to, the train tracks, right? Like, you don't want the train driving next to your house or apartment. I don't know what the effing problem is.
public transportation. Think about it. You can fit about 200 people in a train car that's about 87 feet long. That same amount of people in separate cars would take up 3,000 feet of space. Robotaxis just don't have as much as an impact on making our cities walkable as public transportation does. And this is really the second issue with robotaxis taking over. People worry that it will take away interest in funding from expanding public transit, the thing that will actually make our cities walkable. And the thing is, even if you hate public transit and never take it yourself, you still benefit from it because it gets so many more cars off the road. And while the public transportation in LA has gotten more extensive, it's still not built out in a way that makes it a real option for most people.
So I don't think...
Right? No. That was a perfect example, right? Like, this is the train line that they're on. But should a train line go every single, and where should the train lines stop? And what about the people in between the train lines? Right? Buses. But buses are also large, you know? Like paratransit, right? Like, again, I feel like there's layers to the entire process. What up, bro? Taxis that Voltron combined into snake trains with legs like a crocodile that could counter Mothra. Fair. Also, Adam something. There was something like that where a bunch of things would go together to form like a train, right? They would train up. I don't remember exactly what it is, but Adam didn't like it. Adam doesn't like anything except what Adam likes. Adam's got all the reasons to not do anything other than what Adam wants.
Makes it a real option for most people.
So I don't think Waymo is the perfect solution. I don't think it's a better alternative than public transit.
But maybe they can work together. For now, Waymo could fill in the gaps where public transit doesn't quite reach.
But I don't think that we should view it as the replacement for public transit. I think we should continue to expand that if we really want to take back our...
So that's apparently the problem with self-driving cars that nobody is talking about, is that it's not a replacement for public transit. And I would refer you over to Adam something, who definitely is talking about it. I would refer to you to probably the vast majority of leftist Twitch content creators who will also have that same opinion and might even be just against the idea of Waymos altogether, right? Like that whole fucking thing. And like, so, no,
our city and make it more human-centered rather than car-centered. Public transit, the reality of it in this city, near impossible.
Yes, it's grown, but still, the majority of people in these areas don't live walking distance to a station. So to take it, they would have to drive, and a lot of the stations don't have any parking.
As you can see, not a single parking spot at this one.
And listen, I'm not saying parking spots are the answers. If anything, quite the opposite, just expanding the transit line. But let's be real, that's going to take decades, and who knows if it'll ever even get there. This is a hypothetical map someone made of what it could look like one day. This would allow people to really go carless. In the meantime, Waymo allows people a comfortable and safe way to get to a station without having to park.
The other issue with the train is that it's very slow. It's almost always faster to drive. If you're going to go from Santa Monica to downtown, it's going to take you 57 minutes because the train stops 18 times.
And also because for this line, they built a light rail train. These go a lot slower, and sometimes they have to actually stop for traffic lights.
Average speed said about 10 miles per hour. It really didn't go that fast.
What they really need to do is build more of the underground subway. There is one that goes from downtown to North Hollywood, and it goes much faster. It's just, in my opinion, pointless to even build these light rails. They're so slow, I would just rather drive. There are plans to connect the west side to Van Nuys, and they're considering an underground train. Hopefully they go with it, because the other option is just going to be so slow, no one will want to take it. Here's the reality. Public transit is going to take decades.
To an extent, Samson's, right? Like, I understand, like, you know, but let's say you start work at 8 o'clock, right? And you have an hour train trip, and then you have to get to the train station that's near you, right? So, hour 15, hour and a half, you know? So now it's 3 hours of commute each day and doing that. Oh yeah, no, like yeah, I think that Toronto's public transit system is fairly well developed. I definitely enjoyed it when I was up there. That and the fucking museums in Toronto are amazing. And you get the pass, right? Where you pay once and you can go to all these fucking things. Yeah.
To build out in LA.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Samsons, but now that's 3 hours out of your day, though. Like this is part of the consideration. And I'm fine with that, right? Like, because I always plan around that. It just takes as long as it takes. I currently do a 3-hour commute on the days when I need the car. I have to drive my wife to her job. That's 45 minutes. 45 minutes back. That's an hour and a half. And then do it again later. That's a 3-hour commute, right? But that for me is everything gets baked in. And I don't have a job at the moment other than this. You know what I mean? So under those conditions, there's a lot of flexibility.
Maybe longer. Maybe it won't ever really happen like this. Waymo is actually here today, and it does give us a safer and more comfortable way to get around. But I just don't think we should look at it as the end-all be-all solution.
So for now, I'm keeping my car. I'm not able to go fully carless quite yet. Maybe one day in the future. A girl can dream, but I'm definitely going to take Waymo when I have the option to over Uber and Lyft.
And personally, I'm still rooting for an expanded train line in LA, even if it takes till 2060. Okay, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Huge fan here. I was able to catch...
Hold on. Well, that was disappointing. So, we're going to wrap up today's episode with Bill Burr's Monday morning podcast. Bill Burr on AI stealing jobs. I hope this palate cleanser before we raid out. I like Bill. I'm a fan of Bill.
Huge fan here. I was able to catch your Drop Dead Years set live at the Hollywood Bowl, and I was laughing my ass off the whole time. Best special yet. I thought you might want to know about this new AI company popping up in San Francisco, where I live, that is directly stealing jobs from college grads.
Okay. I hate these fucking people. I hate this fucking artisan company. This ad campaign made my life so much more difficult and made the adoption and the acceptance of AI by regular people so much more difficult. These people can fuck all the way off. Artisan can fuck all the way off. You people, you are, I hate you.
All right, these freaks call themselves artisans, and they are virtual BDRs, business development reps. A BDR is essentially an entry-level sales position for grads trying to break into the business world, a starting position to move up in that company, a spot to learn about an industry, to gain experience, etc. I myself started as a BDR selling data to real estate developers. I learned about the industry, now I am a developer. Good trajectory, right? These dipshits don't seem to think so. Anyways, the worst part are...
I feel like we're having a leopards eating faces moment. Chat, how much sympathy do you have for a data broker who was selling data to real estate agents losing their job to AI?
They're creepy-ass billboards. They feature this AI-created broad with fake blue eyes with captions like, "Stop hiring humans."
Well, I know, T1. Nemesis. Kiss on the head.
Whoa, that's aggressive. Artisans won't bail on work for a Napa trip. Now they're blaming you for being human? This is happening in San Francisco. And my favorite, Ava won't miss work after a long night at Balboa, a famous bar down the street from the billboard. Wow. Okay, these people that make these things, I am telling you right now, these people are a fucking virus. There's human beings out there that are a virus and need to be fucking eradicated. And virus people, for whatever reason, are built to tell normal people the direction that we are all headed in. But there's another part of me that thinks that that's God's plan, if you believe in a higher power. I think it's all sort of the, you know that there's bacteria in your gut that is there your whole life for when you die. And when you die, for whatever reason, it activates. And its job is to begin the decomposing process. So I feel like sociopaths, narcissists, and people that are just, one of these, win at any cost, fake it till you make it, these psychos with no boundaries. I feel like their job is to end the human race. And everything on this planet has a beginning, middle, and end. I think God's just watching it like a TV show.
Yeah, I don't believe that there's any bacteria that are just chilling out waiting for you to die and then activate and like, there's no, it's not like a purpose driven recycling system. It's just that, when you die and your body isn't doing the things anymore, that the bacterias and whatnot that exist in your body just start to consume you, right? Like that's the circle of life.
And this is sort of the, that movie Westworld? Like all the different periods, technology from cavemen to like Roman times, colonization, slavery, world wars, all of this shit has just been like, different period pieces to watch. And then when the robots come, God's just going to be watching it like he's watching like Blade Runner or something. But it will all be wildly entertaining. And I think these sociopaths will always keep us divided. We'll never be able to fight back against them. And what will take them out is the same thing that's going to take us out, which is technology. That's what I think. But I'll tell you this, man, they can't stop you from having a good time and being nice to another human being. You watch these politicians get paid off by these AI people, and if we start like rebelling against robots, these robots will get rights, and if you tip over a robot in the future, it will be considered a hate crime. Anyway, sure, these demon corporations will save money in the short term on wages, but hiring a BDR is how companies identify talent and promote from within. I'm laughing to myself thinking about the day when they come out with AI sales managers and AI execs. So fucking short-sighted. Yeah, they'll basically get run over by the bus that they think they're on. Yeah, that's how the world works. Everybody thinks they're on the bus, but you're really hanging onto the hood ornament like Indiana Jones. Anyway, I have attached pics of the billboard below if you want to tweet about it. Thanks for the laughs and go fuck yourself. Wow. Wow. I mean, that's a watershed moment in advertising. It's not a good moment, but it is a definite things are not the same again. The first billboard that is openly hostile towards human labor. Wow. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take. What can you do to bring us all together as human beings? That's not that type of stuff does not care about red or blue ties. You guys got to get out of this politics stuff. You got to get out of these ideologies. You got to get out of this, you're a conservative, I'm a liberal, you're a snowflake, I'm a this or whatever. Got to get out of that stuff. Racism, all of that stuff. It's all designed so this stuff can take us out. Just keeping us divided. There is an us and there is a them. But the them is not who you think it is, and it's a small handful of fucking people. Anyway, but everybody thinks that's tin fucking hat, whatever the fuck they say. I don't know.
Well, that was disappointing. It was mid as fuck, Bill. Right? Jesus Christ. The higher power shit, the whole fucking, like, yeah, are systems in place that exacerbate our differences? Yes. But also, people do that fucking shit. Right? Like, how am I supposed to unite with someone when they think my friend is a lower form of humanity because of their, like, skin tone or their sexual orientation or what have you? Right? Like, am I just supposed to meet them on the middle ground of that, Bill? What the fuck, dude? Like, miss me with that like overly centrist bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, I understand, and it's true.
What the fuck? This guy is not coherent. What is going on?
It's true that, like, power systems use differences and exacerbate differences in order to extend, fucking control.
It was a bunch
systems.
of nothing, gibberish. Flip-flopical, flip-topological, flip-snobicals. It was a bunch of gibberish, bro.
What up, X1011? But it's just like, right, like, what is the middle ground if genocide is on the one time, right? At one side. Fence is my favorite form of transportation.
I'm mortality as home entertainment. This cannot be the future.
All right, we're going to raid over to Peacefire. Please stick around for the raid, even if you have someplace else to be. Helps me look like big, strong streamer and helps grow the channel when more people follow. I'll be back tomorrow morning, and we'll do some news. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day, which is already in progress. And, make sure you're hydrating. It's hot out, probably where you're at. And whatever normal amount of water you drink, you should be drinking more. Right? Drink more water. If if you're that kind of person who needs to be reminded, this is your reminder. And I'm just have a little Globus voice in your head saying, yeah, I should drink some more water now. And on that note, in the meantime, drink your water, some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shaggy loves you. So do I. Be great.